Monday morning. It is dark out there, very dark, but it's not just the weather that's dark, it's the whole atmosphere that's dark. Down in Downing Street, there's not any lights on because there's nobody home, quite frankly. Nobody knows where Keir Starmer is, nobody knows what he's up to, but the front page of the to save Starmer. I've got this vision. You're going to invite my mate Peter Mandelson, who also happens to be really good mates with Morgan McSweeney, back into the fold, and he's going to get the plum job in Washington. Do you not think that's how it happened? I think that's how it happened. We know that. Emma Wolf is here. Very good morning to Emma. Pages 6 and 7. Mandelson should never have been made US ambassador. This is Epstein victims' family. And Dan Hodges, who's now gone completely over to the other side. The choice is clear. The Prime Minister has to sack his top aide or go himself. So basically, there's a big fight now going on between Morgan McSweeney, the man who supposedly is the architect of this new Labour government, and the Prime Minister himself. Absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? And do you remember all those months ago when I said he ain't going to last the pace, and everybody went, well, how's he going to get rid of them? Well, here we go. This is the beginning of it. Benefits rebels rally behind Burnham. This is Andy Burnham up in Manchester, basically saying the Starmer regime is coming to an end. He's only been in a year and a bit. He couldn't last, he couldn't make it to 2 years. Unbelievable stuff. A lot of coverage, of course, of the sad death of Ricky Hatton, found dead at 46 yesterday. The champion boxer on the front page of The Sun. Rest in peace, champ. Tears for the legend. RIP champ on the front of the Mirror. Ricky Hatton found dead at 16 on the Daily Telegraph. They've also got a story saying that we should give guns to all frontline police officers. Well, we'll see about that. We'll also be talking, of course, about the big rally at the weekend. Starmer has been having a go about that as well in The Guardian, saying the Prime Minister condemns protesters who use England flags as a symbol of violence. I mean, Starmer on the front pages this morning. Incredible, isn't it?
One has to wonder, Mike, how on earth he's feeling this morning. What is going on in Downing Street? We hear this Operation Save Starmer, which is always a bit terminal.
It is.
It's like when he comes out and says he's got full confidence in whoever.
Yes.
You know they're for the top.
Well, let's just recap. He had full confidence in Peter Mandelson only last Wednesday, right? The day before he got fired. Yeah. And with Angela Rayner, he had full confidence her the previous Wednesday. Yeah. Both gone.
There are so many questions right now, Mike. I don't even know where to start. But in terms of who knew what when, we've gone, we know the detail. Bloomberg released their thousands of words. Yeah. The email, the detail of those emails from Mandy to Epstein.
Yes.
Did the Prime Minister? I wonder if he saw them. Didn't get it. Just didn't get how damaging this stuff was.
I'm not buying the fact that they didn't tell him.
Did Morgan McSweeney kind of not really release the full details to him? Did he not read them properly? How could he have then gone out on the Wednesday at PMQs and say, I have confidence in the US
Well,
ambassador?
they have a thing called plausible deniability in politics, don't they? Which means that there are sometimes things that they don't show you, but you know they're not showing them to you. It's not as if, we're not idiots. It's not as if you go, oh, I never saw it. Yeah. Because they kind of do a deal.
Self-protecting
and
kind of...
It's probably better, there are times in journalism when stuff like that happens sometimes. If a particular investigation's going on, sometimes the editor is deliberately left out of the loop. In case it all goes horribly wrong. And in which case,
but this is the Prime Minister we're talking about.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that there can be situations, and in politics the same way, that shouldn't happen, but it does happen, and what they say is, well, we didn't tell you because this way you're protected. But of course, he's not protected.
I still don't think that saves him.
Because he should have known. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't save him. We know for a fact...
It's them trying to be clever.
That vetting process was utterly flimsy, totally not fit for purpose. Whether it's Morgan McSweeney... I mean, he seems to have sent a couple of emails saying, could you tell us a bit more about your relationship, your friendship with Epstein? Yeah. Could you tell us a bit more about when you stayed at his house after he was... Yeah. I think there were 3...
While he was in prison.
Yeah. I think there were 3 questions on an email. Yeah. He didn't even have a face-to-face interview with the Foreign Office. This is Mandelson I'm talking about. Yeah. Didn't even have a face-to-face, in-depth interview with the Foreign Office until later. But what's wonderful about this is that these questions are going to be answered. The Conservatives are really applying pressure as well. Yeah. Everybody's applying pressure, but he hasn't answered these questions yet, and they are not going away.
And also, let's not forget that on Friday we were reporting various different sources saying that Starmer is now in big trouble because Mandelson's going to take him down with him.
Well, he knows. Yeah, he knows stuff. He's not happy, is he?
No.
They apparently haven't spoken since the sacking. Right. So I don't think Mandelson's going to go quietly.
He won't. Because he's a fairly vindictive individual, and he's going to take Starmer with him.
And he may know stuff. It may be even worse than we think. It may be even worse, just speculating here, but it may be even worse than Starmer just not, expressing his full confidence in a man who absolutely, I mean, everybody at the appointment, everybody was saying, well, that's not right, is it? That guy's not the right person.
Well, we
for
said
US
it at the time. Peter Mandelson is not a suitable candidate to be ambassador in the biggest job in the world as far as the UK Foreign Office is concerned. The Mail on Sunday reported that Keir Starmer and his top advisor Morgan McSweeney had been involved in a spat, they say, or a row, over what the Prime Minister was or wasn't told following his Commons appearance last Wednesday. They say the Labour leader said, you're supposed to protect me from things like this.
Yelled at him, you're supposed to protect me from things like this. Yeah. And we know that Morgan McSweeney apparently is very close to Peter Mandelson. The whole
Well, they used to work together.
Stinks.
This is the way that Labour operates, right? Peter Mandelson, when he was a minister back in the last government, had Morgan McSweeney as one of his advisors. Morgan McSweeney then is indebted to him. He then brings him back in under the auspices of being the most experienced trade envoy there is, manages to convince Starmer, who's not very bright, this is a good guy to have because he knows everyone. Starmer just nods along like a stupid nodding dog. Yeah. And now look where he is.
And now look where he is. And just to sort of add a little bit of cherry on the icing on the cake, we also have the revelations over the weekend that there's more emails set to come out which are going to then really land Andrew, what's besieged Duke or whatever he is. I mean, this guy seems to basically drive around Windsor like looking haunted and hunted.
It's weird,
in that car. Did you see those photos of him yesterday? He must not be a very healthy, happy, mentally well man. I mean, he literally... Could his reputation fall any further? The King is angry, the state visit is happening, the whole thing is all these men circling around the Epstein thing. Yeah. It's like the perfect storm.
It really
and if Starmer gets through the next few days, even if he can limp towards the state visit on Wednesday, I mean, that's going to be a relief for him.
It will be.
At least when Trump lands, the focus will be off him for a minute.
Well, he's hoping, according to the front page of the Times, that basically this deal that he's done with the US on nuclear power will somehow save him. It's not going to save him.
OK. people have big questions. Do you think a couple of small nuclear power stations thing, it's so random. It's like when he comes out and starts talking about the cost of school uniforms.
Yeah. Or it's when he comes out, he came out last week and went, you know, there's 1,700 jobs coming in the defence industry. Nobody sees the jobs. It's not going to come anytime soon. Same with these nuclear power stations.
Well, they'll come in 2050 if they ever come at all.
Unless it's a pop-up.
Unless you sack Ed Miliband and we actually start doing something about our energy crisis in this country. Yeah. It's so weird that he thinks that's going to save him.
And I've already got Andy Burnham up in Manchester making noises, making on
that's another part of the puzzle.
He's saying that he's considering stepping down early to fight a by-election, which would make him then able to stand as leader. Peter Kyle, yesterday, the business secretary, basically told him to stay out of it and you know,
get back up north.
You know, back in your box.
You know what's funny? Down in the south, we all think that Andy Burnham's really popular up north. Yeah. But I was doing a programme yesterday, loads of people from the north were ringing in going, he's not actually that popular up north. So he could mess it all up for himself as well.
Yeah. Oh, no, Andy Burnham makes out that he's this great sort of political
man
genius.
Of the people.
A man that knows everything.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember it being particularly good when he was on the Labour front bench. You know, he's no genius.
If that's the best they've got. And so now they've got this soft left mainstream.
Dressing like you're in New Order isn't enough, quite frankly. You know, but let's have a look at some clips. Peter Kyle, business secretary, he was on the rounds yesterday, talking about how Mandelson and the story that came out was all our fault.
There was a lot of information publicly. We knew that there was a relationship. We knew the relationship continued after he'd been convicted. The decision was taken in the national interest to try and use the specific talents that he had, which were singular and outstanding. Now, all of the media, Trevor, had also the same information that we had at the time. The fact is, and by the way, public knew, the media knew all of this, the relationship. We only knew what the media knew at that time. We only knew because you didn't.
What was the point of what's the point of the heavy vetting if all that you know is what I know?
It's a very good question from Trevor Phillips. This guy is talking absolute cobblers, right? Peter Kyle, if you think that we're stupid enough to believe that all you know is what we know, and you're in government with MI5 checks, with all sorts of, you know, spying capabilities, with secret files on people, but you don't know any more than we do. Well, maybe they don't tell you any more than we know, but, you know, the government should know.
Well, then they need to sort that out, because that is not a vetting process.
No, and also, how dare he say that Peter Mandelson was appointed in the national interest?
Yeah, with those special talents. Sorry, what?
Yeah. Well, it'd be probably best not talk about the special talents.
Well, yeah, let's not talk about that. But liking to be around the rich and famous and hang out in Washington.
Yeah, he's got a great talent for being on, you know, Oleg Deripaska's yacht, you know, and various other oligarchs that you can find. Yeah. Here's Peter Kyle talking about migration.
So we've been straining at the bit. We've been doing everything we can. The lesson is that by cooperating with our partners, France, rather than rowing with them, we are able to deliver. So I hope the flights will start as quickly as possible. I don't know the exact date they will, but people need to look at this and see that we are straining at the bit. We are also angry about what we have inherited, and we are doing everything possible to get a grip on it.
I'm not sure straining at the bit is the kind of image that you want to conjure up as a government minister, is it?
No.
Like you're sort of out of control and somebody has to hold you back because, you know, you're desperate to do something.
Well, they've done nothing.
And he doesn't even know when they're starting the flights.
Exactly. I don't think, actually, this whole...
I don't think they tell him anything.
And it's fewer than 100. Well, it's actually going to be fewer than 100.
It could be fewer than 10.
And also, can we have some detail on this? So we've sent a list, apparently. We've served these people with their notice, politely saying, hi, you'll be escorted to Heathrow Terminal 4
today. And where are
they
now, though?
So where are they now?
Right.
So none of them have gone around a walkabout. They got their letters.
We were told that they were detained when they arrived, right? But all we've seen is that video of the three guys with the blue bags.
Not the blue plastic bag guys. Don't try that one again, Mike.
I don't know whether there's only three of them.
But these are arrivals that came in August, aren't they? So these aren't dealing with any of the backlog. So they've all had notice served on them. So they're going to quietly wait at home for their escort to the airport, you think?
Well, apparently not, but I don't think they're at home. I don't know where they are because the government hasn't told us, right? Because you remember we were going to get regular updates from Yvette Cooper. Well, she's not even in the job anymore, so she hasn't given us any updates at all. We've now got a different Home Secretary,
Shabana Mahmood, who's done diddly squats since she came in.
Well, to be fair, she has done some things, because in her first week she's managed to increase... She
made a video.
She's managed to increase by a factor of 5 the number of immigrants coming in.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, remember the first day she worked, Saturday, last Saturday, a week ago Saturday, 1,097 in one day.
Yeah.
So well done, Shabana Mahmood.
Well done.
And the idea that I've got in my head now is that as these people are being escorted into Charles de Gaulle Airport, right, there's another load coming back the other way, waiting to get the flight back.
Right, and who are these?
And who are they?
Right, and who are these people?
We don't know.
So the detail is that they are asylum seekers who've applied for asylum in Britain.
Yeah.
And so we've sent a list. It's like a name. It's like a school register.
Right.
We've sent a list of names to France. They've said, yeah, that's OK. You send them back, and we'll send you. What is the point of this? We'll send you more people that are trying to get to your country.
Yes.
So what is the point of this? And it's not going to happen. And there are going to be legal challenges.
It's certainly not going to result in a reduction in migrants. It's going to. It's still more people.
The cost of this is another utterly pointless venture.
It is.
Failed policy.
Yeah.
This is not going to get anywhere close.
But this is their big idea, right?
With the problem.
This is their big idea. To send people out who don't belong here, who haven't got any right to be here, to bring some other people in who don't belong here and haven't really right to be here.
But they can't release details because they don't want to give any information to the people traffickers, as if the people traffickers care. Their job is to get a couple of thousand of people and get them over to the country, get them over to the UK.
Yeah.
This is an absolute joke. This policy, if Starmer thinks that this one-in, one-out deal is going to change people's mind on the failed policy, the immigration policy, he's for the birds.
Yeah. Also, the Mail have got a version of the story in which it says that there's last-minute
that there are going to be last-minute challenges. Exactly.
Which could mean that they won't go anywhere anyway.
And Chris Philp has been saying, you know, this is not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen, and it's a complete disaster. Yeah, lawyers will try to block today's one-in, one-out returns, say the Tories. Tory Home Affairs spokesman Chris Philp has said Labour's plan will be overwhelmed by late legal action brought on behalf of the migrants to prevent them being sent back. The government's too naive to realise this. Yeah. Because they've not scrapped the Human Rights Act in immigration matters or the use of modern slavery claims. Ministers will find it very hard to remove people in practice, and he says what we should do is deport every single illegal immigrant immediately upon arrival.
Yes.
There we go. That would at least
he could have done that when he was Justice Minister.
Of course he could, but at least that would stop people from coming over.
It would.
If they were just deported when they arrived illegally.
Yeah, but that's not happening. Meanwhile, the group Labour Together, which is very close links with Shabana
What we got now?
Mahmood.
Mainstream, Fruit and Nut, Labour Together.
Yeah, Labour Together. They say that they want to give submit plans that would give areas with asylum hotels multi-million-pound thank you payments, which is about 250 areas, receive $4 million each to spend on community facilities. The money would come from a fund financed by the savings made ending the use of hotel accommodation. Sorry,
communities being paid to take more migrants into our country.
Yeah, yeah.
And do local people get a say on that?
With our money?
Yeah, with our...
No, I shouldn't think so.
Are we paying people to come here, Mike?
We actually are.
We actually are.
Finally, just before we take a break, Shabana Mahmood's first week, she thought she'd done so well, she'd make a little video film about it.
Oh God, not another one.
I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it's too long and boring, but have a look at this.
She promised to be, and I quote, a whatever it takes, close quotes, Home Secretary.
My previous brief, I think you can tell I'm not the sort of person that hangs around.
It's just all cobblers, isn't it?
But that's a kind of little PR video about her.
I've had a meeting.
And people who know me say I'm really tough and I don't mess around.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really embarrassing.
I know.
Why are they wasting time doing this kind of thing?
Because there's so many of them, they've got to give them all something to do.
This is really embarrassing, and that's absolutely... There's so much she needs to be doing. Yeah. There's so much. This country is in crisis. We have no borders.
Right. But she's going to protect them nonetheless, despite the fact that there's people coming in here now because we're inviting them in from France. Because they apparently have a right to be here.
I think every cabinet meeting starts with, you know, who's made a nice little video? What have we done on X today? Can we all show each other what we've done on X? What's the latest little TikTok?
Well, I've got some good news for you, because coming next, we'll play another video, which has been made over the weekend by another woman in Labour government who thinks she's very important as well. It's coming up after this. shall see. I don't believe the arrogant Prime Minister would take any instruction from anyone except Lord Harmer, his go-to man for law. Well, this is it. You know, there's obviously some kind of racket going on here where he's going to make out that, oh, they never told me. Which, if that's the case, Morgan McSweeney then officially is the Prime Minister, and Starmer's just his assistant.
It's when they start attacking each other that it all just starts to fall absolutely apart, and the vultures are circling, aren't they?
They really are.
I mean, everyone's in position.
Before we talk about some other women in the cabinet, let's get a voice note from Anton about the march on Saturday.
Morning, Mike. Morning, Emma. You could tell Keir Starmer was on his way out the weekend at the march in London, United Kingdom, when he had 1 million people all simultaneously chanting Keir Starmer's a planker. I may have heard that a bit wrong, but, you can get the gist.
Yes, I'm afraid so. He's an incredibly unpopular man. I mean, he's not even popular in his own party now. I mean, that's part of the problem. We'll talk about the march in a minute. Let's have a look at Bridget Phillipson, though. She's, of course, the Education Secretary, and this is her making her pitch to be the deputy leader of the party because she's a working class woman.
I'm proud of where I've come from. I grew up in a council street in Washington, in the northeast of England. Just me and my mum. I've so many memories from that time. I remember one winter, when we were struggling, a neighbour posted an envelope through the letterbox, marked for Bridget's coat. I'll never forget that kindness, that sense of community. Even though it was a tough area, we still had each other. Growing up, my mum founded a charity to provide refuge for women in Sunderland, fleeing domestic violence.
We have to come together to beat reform, to beat the division of far-right politics. Because that isn't Britain, and that isn't who we are. The Britain that I know and love is the neighbour who put that envelope through the door. My mum who set up that charity. And Britain is all of our members, all of you who've campaigned so tirelessly for change. And now we've got to get on and deliver. Unite and bring together working people. Take the fight to reform. And that's the deputy leader that I'll be.
See, they're all obsessed with reform, aren't they?
They are. She couldn't resist that.
Can't get past it.
Me mum.
Yeah, me mum.
So I'm a single mum too, Mike, and I'm looking forward to when my child grows up and makes videos going, me and me mum.
Me and me
just
mum.
Simple life. Come on, come off it.
People used to put things through the letterbox, and I'm sure they did. About Yvette Cooper, she went to Ukraine, apparently, at the weekend.
Yeah.
They must really be pleased over there that she's now arrived. Have a look.
Welcome. We are really proud that you decided your choice to do to Ukraine.
We will be with you all the way through to peace, to victory, and also to the building of a new Ukraine. So I want to thank the Ukrainian people for your strength, your resilience, and courage in the face of that aggression.
Ukraine's security is our security. It's that on which Europe's stability and security depends. And this friendship is so important. We will stand with Ukraine in solidarity.
Thanks for everything. Thank you.
Yeah, well, at least you need a tank to get through the border at Ukraine if you're Russia. But if you want to come to Britain, you just get on a boat.
Ukraine has become where people go when they're in trouble. So Harry pitches up in Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, he went there as well, didn't he?
Boris was in Ukraine the other day. What is this thing about, oh, we'll just use Ukraine as a handy place to film a video talking about compassion and all this nonsense?
I know.
Ukraine's security is our security. That's not actually true.
No.
I mean, I know Ukraine is an important country, but it's not actually our security.
Well, it's less dangerous in terms of, you know, what's happening in Britain if you're in Ukraine than it is if you're in Britain. You know, because as far as we're concerned, we haven't got any defences at all against people coming into our country without
and we don't have any money, whereas they're getting quite a lot of money
and
from
they've got a lot
us.
of weapons as well. You know,
Billions
so they can fire at people. But, you know, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Here's the other thing about old Yvette Cooper. She's always promising, you know, constant updates, you know, on what she's doing. So I'm looking forward to what updates are going to come from all of that. Never mind. What can we do? Well, should we talk about Harry?
Yeah.
He's on the front pages this morning, front page of The Guardian. It says his conscience is clear.
Yeah.
He basically wants to spend more time in the UK, and the focus now is going to be his dad.
Yeah. But actually, the better one is in the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Page 3, Daily Mail. I'd like to spend more time in the UK. And everyone in the UK says, please don't.
Yeah, we'd rather you didn't.
I think, look, his marriage is falling apart. He's desperate. He came over here obviously without Meghan and the children.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, how would you feel if you were King Charles? They had a 50-minute.
Yeah.
They had a 50-minute cup of tea, which presumably involves, you know, getting in, getting out. So they basically chatted for a bit. They hadn't seen each other for a year and a half. I don't think Charles is very anxious to see Harry.
No.
And now Harry comes away, a bit like when he said, you know, I don't know how much longer my father has left. I find the way he talks about his father, the way he talks about the king, so odd and disrespectful. And all it does is wind King Charles up. Yeah. All it does is further, you know, kind of...
He's also deluded, right?
These relationships.
He says that his intimate details that he shared about his family, both in his network, in his Netflix show, and also in the memoir Spare, was not about revenge. And he said, I did not air my dirty laundry in public.
Yeah, he
did.
He says the memoir was a series of corrections to stories already out there. One point of view had been put out there and it needed to be corrected. My conscience is clear. It's not about revenge, it's about accountability.
Oh, yeah.
So he still wants accountability from the palace. I mean, I don't think his father wants him to come over to the UK and spend more time with him. My focus has to be on my dad. This is a man he hasn't seen for a year and a half.
I know.
It's absolutely ludicrous. And this nonsense that we endlessly hear about security, the security fears for his family, he can't come over here. We've seen him, over the last 4 days, we've seen him all over the UK.
Yeah.
In every photograph, he had armoured security, he had bodyguards, he had drivers.
Yeah.
He turned up in Nottingham, there was barely anyone there to see him.
Yeah.
He's got security. Why does he go wandering around Chelsea in the middle of the night, in the middle of the morning, you know, looking for house parties or whatever?
Who knows?
It's not...
He says you cannot have reconciliation before you have truth. That's him having a swipe at Prince William.
Exactly, there we go again.
He's revealed that the words of wisdom came from his wife Meghan, who's told him just stick to the truth. What would she know about that?
What would she know about the truth?
She's never heard of the truth.
This is so... and also, half of her family are completely estranged from her. Well, most of her family, apart from her mother, who I think lives in as a kind of unpaid nanny.
Yeah.
All of her family are estranged from her, and her sister's taking her to court today.
Yeah.
This week.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just ridiculous.
But it's all about truth, Mike.
Yeah, that's enough about
it. The truth must come out.
Yeah, let's talk about what happened at the weekend, the big rally that took place.
Yeah.
I mean, take your pick as to what the number is. I was watching Kelly Hopkins being interviewed afterwards. She said, actually, the number doesn't really matter. I don't think it was 3 million. It was probably more than 110,000. Who knows, maybe half a million.
It'd be nice to know, though, because, you know, the police were saying, I think, 110,000.
Yeah.
People who were there were saying 1 million, 2 million. Like you, I don't think it was 1 million, 2 million. But if it's significantly more than 100,000, it would be nice to know.
It was a very large number of people, and a very large number of people who were going out there to just show their support for the flag, to show their support for the UK, frankly, and to espouse, as we heard from our last messenger there, how their hatred of Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
And apparently it was a brilliant atmosphere. I wasn't there. I wasn't in London. People say it was fantastic. A lot of kids, a lot of families.
Yeah.
You know, a tiny little bit of trouble, but of course that's what Keir Starmer goes on about. There were 500 plus arrests at the Notting Hill Carnival, none of which attracted anything from Starmer, and now he's going, well, we're not going to have these thugs that are going to... we'll never surrender to far-right protesters who use the English flag as cover for violence. You know, he just gets everything wrong. It's completely the wrong
Many people were there with their flags. So many, hundreds of thousands were there.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Tommy Robinson, really, just there. It was called Unite the Kingdom.
Yeah.
You may not agree with some of the high-profile speakers, Katie Hopkins, Lawrence Fox, Tommy Robinson. OK, Elon Musk, I did think was a bit inflammatory, actually, in his little video link-up. I did think it was unhelpful to start talking about, you know, if you don't fight back, you die kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think we want that.
I don't think we need that,
Capitol Hill stuff about fighting back, because all it does is inflame the left and tell, you know, oh, they're all... But the fact is, hundreds of thousands of people were there, peacefully celebrating and talking about Unite the Kingdom.
Absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that. And what he said was people have a right to peaceful protest. It is core to our country's values. Well, yes, but he says, but we will not stand for assaults on police officers, apart from when the assaults on police officers happen in other situations, like Notting Hill.
Well, you mentioned
where
Notting Hill Carnival.
There was a lot more.
Not only arrests, Mike, but there were actual deaths. There have been actual deaths at the Notting Hill Carnival. I think on Saturday, as you say, there were 25, 26 arrests. 4 of them were violent attacks on police. We saw a grisly scene at Elephant and Castle. I was cycling past with my little one, and we saw a police van colliding with... But that's, you know, there are a lot of police vans driving at top speed through the capital. They seem to almost kind of, you know, want to raise the tension.
Right.
They're all over the place, even in areas which are not even touched by the march.
There's certainly plenty of police officers who do their jobs very well.
Of course,
there's also some who quite like a punch-up.
But that is only a very few. If there were 4 violent arrests on police officers, that's nothing.
And people have picked up on this as well, because he also says we will not stand for assaults on police officers doing their job, or for people feeling intimidated on our streets because of their background or the colour of their skin. Well, he's never said that about the people intimidated by Palestinian marches, has he? Jewish people who can't walk to their synagogue, Jewish people who've told their children to take off their school uniform in order not to be targeted by crazed Islamists.
It's not about the colour of your skin, Mike. There were black people, there were white people, there were people of all different cultures and backgrounds and ethnicities at that march.
Yeah.
There were loads of black and white people. So to start saying it's intimidation about the colour of your skin, no. And I'm sure there were more violent arrests and arrests in town centres up and down the country, probably on Saturday night, than there were at this march, which was largely, overwhelmingly, kind of beautifully peaceful, actually, if you think about that many people in central London.
Of course, absolutely. Britain is a nation proudly built on tolerance, diversity and respect, he says. Our flag represents our diverse country and we will never surrender it to those that use it as a symbol of violence.
No one's talking about surrendering it or anything.
Nobody says anything like that. Nobody talks like that. And actually, the flag doesn't represent our diverse country. It represents Britain, OK? And if you want to be British, you can come and be British in Britain. If you don't want to be British, then it doesn't represent you at all, actually. You know, it represents British history, British values, British tolerance, and a sign of a sense of fair play. And that's what Britain's all about. And that's what he should have said. It doesn't represent our diverse country at all. If that's the case, why does he let all these people wander about with Palestinian flags all the time? What does that represent?
Exactly.
You know? Anyway, never mind. Let's just remember that Peter Mandelson is still one of the main stories, and this is what Lee has got to say about that.
Hey Mike, Lee from Chelmsford. This guy lurches from one crisis to another. How could he not have known the link between Mandelson and Epstein? He could have just typed it in Google and found out. I think he's going to go, Mike, and if he does, who's going to turn the Christmas lights on? All the best.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, let's have a look at what he said when he got Mandelson the job in the first place.
There was a lot of information publicly. We knew that
That didn't look right. We'll come back and do that in a minute. All right, we'll take a little break, shall we? And you're obviously feeling a bit hungover from the weekend, aren't you? Is that the problem? Anyway, we'll get it all fixed. We've got more clips to play you. We've also got to tell you about why everyone thinks now that police officers on the front line should have guns. And we'll also bring the latest on the Charlie Kirk assailant as well. Turns out he's been having a romantic relationship with his trans roommate. Marvellous, isn't it? 6:37.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:39. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. Julie Hartley-Brewer's back later on this morning. £376 billion a year on quangos. is the headline in The Sun. They swallowed up that much money. Britain's 438 publicly funded bodies with 500,000 staff accounted for a third of government spending. This is just last year.
Just 1 year.
Just in 1 year for the Taxpayers Alliance, these figures are.
But if this kind of money was not wasted, we wouldn't be facing this hellscape of a budget.
But this is the thing.
They're talking about the £50 billion black hole, which is increasing and increasing, and then we are wasting nearly 400 billion a year.
Yeah, because all they know is how to waste money. That's the problem. You know, they can't. They're incapable of saving money. All they do. I mean, even do you remember when all that way back to what was it, 12 days ago, or maybe nearly 2 weeks ago, when Keir Starmer relaunched the government and went phase two, and just talked about hiring all these new people. You know, what he didn't say was that you now hired probably about another £500,000 or £1 million worth of salaries to have even more advisors.
And even more DEI and net zero advisors in every single department. It seems that they don't have to kind of rein in. Whereas, weren't we told last week, Rachel Reeves saying, you know, things are going to be tight, we've all got to tighten our belt. I'm sure you read over the weekend, what is it, £133,000 a day being spent in the NHS for interpreters and translators, which is about 64 million a year. Over the last 5 years, it's doubled, and we could be hiring thousands more nurses. It's that kind of wastage.
It is incredible, isn't it?
Utter inefficiency.
Insane.
Apparently, in our public services.
The most created Quangos came from the Department for Culture, Media and Sport last year, 41.
Well, we absolutely don't need more Quangos.
No.
And that's not even an essential... Sorry, it's not.
We don't need Quangos at all, frankly. You know, it's just jobs for the boys and the girls. And they say, oh, well, now that you're no longer an MP, how would you like to go and work over here and do something?
Absolutely.
Right, I think we've now got the Mandelson clip. So here's Keir Starmer hailing Peter Mandelson when he first got the job.
There's a real buzz around Washington right now. You can sense that there's a new leader in town, that he's a true one-off, a pioneer in business and in politics. Many people love him. Others love to hate him. But to us, he's just Peter. And Peter is the right person to help us work with President Trump and to take this special relationship from strength to strength.
Well, maybe he should have been more worried about his real special relationship with old Jeffrey Epstein. But, you know, he does that face that he did with Rachel Reeves when, you know, we have this amazing person coming to work for us. And he builds them all up to such an extent that when they do fall, as they inevitably do, you know, he looks like an idiot.
And when he looks happy for a moment there, when someone laughs, and when a few people laugh at his lame joke, he's just, to us, he's just Peter.
Yeah.
He looks so different to how haunted and unhappy he looks at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he could have said to us he's just Petey. Which is what
Mandy Pandy.
Yeah, which is what the pedo used to call him.
Yeah.
Now here he is saying how much full confidence he has in him. This was the day before he fired him.
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
That was him sort of squirming on the hook just last Wednesday. And by Thursday, he was gone.
And he allegedly knew about all of this by Tuesday.
Yeah.
Why on earth did they not sit down and work out a strategy? Why on earth did they not get rid of him on Tuesday when they saw those emails?
It's extraordinary. And
I mean, way before that, he should never have been appointed.
He should never have got the job, number one.
Absolutely
Number two, if somehow they managed not to tell Starmer about the things that they should have told him about, he should have still known them, as our last message just said. He could have at least just Googled it and found out what was going on. It's just, I find it incredible that they're this useless.
And it goes on and on. Even now, he could have taken action on Friday.
Yeah.
He could have taken action on Saturday.
Yeah.
Instead of which he lets it drift, and now what? He wakes up today, and what's the situation now?
So now he's got another, because every day he's got a different crisis.
I think the Conservatives are asking for an emergency debate on the Mandelson question, aren't they? They're calling for an emergency debate in the Commons.
Yeah, because they don't want it to go away, and quite rightly, I think they should be pressing him, because if he did know, there's two problems here. One, if he did know that he was a security risk, which technically is what he was, he should never have got the job. And if he didn't know, then why didn't he know? And what's wrong with the mechanism of government which doesn't tell the Prime Minister that a guy who's about to become the top diplomat in the Foreign Office us.
To the US.
To the United States of America, our biggest ally, is a security risk. Because that's what he is.
Of course he is.
You know, it's not just he had a friendship that he didn't disclose. He's a security risk. You know, what was he doing down there on Pedo Island? You know, in his bathrobe.
There are just so many questions that still need to be answered.
Exactly right. Let's talk about another couple of funny stories. Give guns to all frontline officers. This is on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. I'm not sure this is a very good idea. We don't, generally speaking, have armed police in this country, but this is according to an internal review which says that Scotland Yard recommends that Metropolitan Police should consider routinely arming officers with semi-automatic pistols. You live in London. You want police to be armed?
No, I really don't. And also it's to protect them against knife attacks.
Right.
Well, I mean, if you're about to be well, it's just the whole thing. I mean, the police do need to be out on the streets more. That would be a start. The police need to be spending less time staring at screens, going through all our social media posts.
Right.
But arming them with semi-automatic rifles, is that how on earth is that? Sorry,
well, I assume they'd be handguns.
Semi-automatic pistols, sorry.
Yeah.
How on earth is that going to help the situation?
Yeah. I mean, it says it's going to aim to train and equip 10,000 officers with tasers by summer 2027, with batons and pepper spray issued to all. I mean, tasers seem to work quite well whenever you see them being used, don't
Exactly. And also, haven't
they?
we just
you
seen...
want police firing guns at people?
I mean, you know, the gun debate, we've just seen a few days ago in America how dangerous the whole thing is. This internal safety review was commissioned after Met officers faced a knife attack in Leicester Square in 2022 when a 25-year-old man overcame batons, tasers and pepper spray to stab them.
Yeah.
So, swift action. 3 years later, they're now doing this internal review.
Some campaigners are saying policing without arms is outdated and it's also dangerous. Across Europe and much of the rest of the world, routine arming has not destroyed legitimacy, it has saved lives. But except the thing is, I mean, I remember being a kid in the 60s going to Europe, you know, and when we used to drive across Europe and go to Italy and go to, and all the police had guns, but that was because it was Europe. You didn't sort of go, oh my God, you know, but you know, they've had those for decades and probably centuries, whereas we haven't.
No,
and,
we haven't. No, I remember my first experience in America, seeing people just walking down the street with guns and found out police officers. I used to always find that, you know, it's quite
I mean, when you see
shocking.
them here, I mean, you see them at airports and things quite a lot because that's a routine. But, you know, whenever you've seen them at some sort of railway stations, I don't have a problem with seeing them if there's a sort of heightened security alert thing going. I remember walking around the back of Harley Street once and suddenly these two cops came around the corner with semi-automatic machine guns. And I thought, well, you know, there's probably a terror threat or something, that's fine. But you don't want ordinary cops to have them, I don't think.
No, and they'll need...
They should be specially trained.
Exactly, specialist training and all of that. Of course, of course.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but, you know, this is Shabana Mahmood again.
Yes, indeed.
See what she does.
The man suspected of shooting dead Charlie Kirk was in a relationship with his transgender roommate, potentially shedding light on his motivation for killing Kirk. This is Tyler Robinson, aged 22.
Yeah, apparently his roommate was indeed a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female.
OK.
This guy, Tyler Robinson, sounds like a very, very troubled individual, doesn't he?
Does, yeah.
Very, very strange. I mean, what can you say the minute they say that they're...
Well, there's all kinds of mixed signals coming out of the investigation, because there are some who say he was one of these groypers, you know, who are actually quite right-wing, who kind of go after conservative people who they don't think are conservative enough.
Yeah.
But he also had quite a lot of evidence of sort of left-wing affiliations as well, so they're not really sure what happened. But just such a terrible event, anyway.
Yeah, and when you see the footage, when I think it was over the weekend that Erica Kirk released that... video just talking about her children. I mean, a 3-year-old and a little boy who's barely one.
Awful, isn't it?
1.5, something like that. Yeah, absolutely devastating, heartbreaking for the family.
We should talk, I suppose, a bit about the Trump visit, which comes on Wednesday. There's a big spread in the Sun about Trump lockdown UK, because obviously there's going to have to be very, very high security. UK's biggest security operation ever. There's going to be flags being used to block snipers' views. Police are going to get drone guns. And they've got this picture of a sort of military preparation with the household cavalry all marching around with their bearskin hats on.
Yeah, and a huge wall going up around Windsor, where I think Melania and Donald Trump are spending the night on Wednesday for the state banquet.
Right.
I mean, I imagine the Prime Minister's going to be actually welcoming this now. It was going to be a bit tricky. Ooh, he's coming. Trump's coming, but actually now at least it'll take the heat off him for a moment.
And again, like everything else that he does, it's had to be manipulated so that when Trump came, he came when Parliament wasn't open, so that they couldn't make an argument about, you know, whether or not they should allow him to address Parliament.
Yeah.
So it's all very embarrassing.
It is very embarrassing, and I think it's really disrespectful to the President of the United States as well, with our special relationship.
Well, you would think so.
But yeah, this is going to be a huge, huge, well, cost. I mean, the cost of all this, Mike. I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't say that, but when we're wasting billions and billions on quangos, how much is this entire thing costing?
Right.
Those state banquets alone cost hundreds of thousands of pounds.
They do. Chris Phillips, former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office, says the biggest risk to Mr Trump is likely from a close quarters attack rather than a sniper, but stressed every possibility has to be guarded against. He stressed even a drone carrying a bomb is a possibility. That's why they're going to use drone guns for shooting them down. I mean, you would have to hate to do that kind of job, wouldn't you?
Really?
Drones present a new risk, and police will have anti-drone guns in case of one being used for a bomb attack. This president is disliked by so many people, there are about to be demonstrations against him, and that will create an extra difficulty for people. I actually watched somebody called Zoe Gardner, I don't know if you know who that is.
Yes. I have had the pleasure of...
Who's done this rather ridiculously over-the-top ad about how we must stop Trump, you know, he's the dark force. It's almost like trying to make him out to be Darth Vader, you know, that he's trying to change the world in his own image.
She's the most painful of the liberal lefties.
She's gone insane.
Really has.
Yeah. But there we are. Do we have another break to do? Yeah, let's do another break. Yeah, it's coming up to 10 minutes to 7, and we'll talk a bit about Ricky Hatton as well, who's on the front pages after, sadly, passing away at just 46 years old at the weekend. Let's talk.
And I think that means that particularly where he's demonstrated contrition, and he's admitted to all his many faults, it doesn't mean that we can simply throw the baby out with the bathwater with this guy, because he's always acting from a place of emotional integrity.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. It's 6:54. Emma Wolf is here. If Starmer knew about Mandelson's past, he has to go. If McSweeney didn't tell him, he has to go as well. One of them is toast, says Mackenzie. I think that's about right, isn't it? And how much longer can he cling on for would be the question. This one from John, who says, Mike, we're currently on holiday in Italy, and I found it very encouraging seeing police wearing guns, multiple female ones as well, at the railway stations and on the streets and at the major tourist locations. It has to happen in the UK, in my view. So maybe, maybe the world is
maybe
changing.
now, exactly, with the terrorist threat that we always face, and we never know when something big is going to happen in big cities. Maybe there is an argument for that, but as you say, they need to be properly trained.
They do.
And
absolutely
I think the police is facing a lot of trouble in terms of recruitment and all of that. So whether they will be able to.
Let's just mention Ricky Hatton. We had him on the show here just a couple of years ago, I think. He had a new book coming out, and it was a lovely man. Such a shame. He was found dead at his home at the weekend. No suspicious circumstances. Is what they're saying.
No, clearly really troubled, and he talked a lot, hadn't he, about alcoholism and about mental health struggles, and really opened up and encouraged others to actually talk about their problems, especially men in sport, and also to get help.
So
young.
The Sun have done an awful lot on it, and we've lost a friend, a mentor and a warrior. Amir Khan leading praise for him, and that's, of course, on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 26, 27, sports pages as well. Lots of people putting flowers out of his home, and even Pep Guardiola. There was a Manchester derby yesterday. Of course, he was Mr. Manchester, and they won 3-0 against Man United, Manchester City. He said, "That's for you, Ricky," because he was a big Manchester City fan as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And
terrible, tragic story.
Lots of people in his local area in Hyde, in Greater Manchester, talking about him, seeing him out running, seeing him at the pub. And seeing him having his favourite, big English fry up. So there was obviously a lot of affection for him in the local area.
Absolutely right. Front page of the Express this morning is interesting. It's not exclusive by their investigations editors. Sadiq Khan faces calls to quit after a whistleblower accused the London mayor of refusing to face up to industrial-scale grooming gangs in the capital. This is a question that has been put to him a few times by Susan Hall, if you remember, and he never answers, does he?
No, he doesn't answer. But this is serious. I mean, this is a former Met police officer, detective, John Wedger, claimed that organised sexual exploitation of children has been rife in London for 20 years on a level far beyond that uncovered in towns such as Rochdale and Rotherham.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean,
because that was the
sounds like there is a lot to be investigated.
Well, Susan Hall put the question to him in one of the, the mayoral question debates where she said, could you tell us, please, why there haven't been any grooming gangs or rape gangs discovered in London?
Yeah.
And instead of answering, he kind of hid behind this kind of, what do you mean by that? And he tried to make her say Pakistani, effectively, which she wouldn't fall for. But, he just wouldn't answer the question. And it has, I mean, lots of people have said, like she has, it's a bit odd, isn't it, that in one city in London, in Britain, there's none of these gangs when they seem to be everywhere else.
And he responds with a kind of race-baiting kind of, you're talking about Pakistanis. That's not racist.
I know, shocking.
Yeah. And how Sadiq Khan has dodged, as you say, the questions on the topics 9 times.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's get another voice note. This is from Carl on Saturday's March.
Hi, Mike. Just wanted to send you a couple of videos. Oh, absolutely. What a fantastic day it was yesterday at the Unite the Kingdom rally. There were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people there, not what the BBC said. I met some lovely people. None of them looked like racist, far-right, anti-migrant protesters like Keir Starmer said. All I saw was patriotic, happy, jolly people who are frustrated at this disgraceful government, and how he can brand us all racist like that is an absolute disgrace once again.
Yeah, but that's why he completely continues to get it completely and utterly wrong. And that's why he's going to be out on his ear pretty soon, because he just doesn't, how can you look at that and go, oh, look, it's all these far-right and horrible, nasty people who want to beat up anybody who's not white.
Because they've got flags. And looking again, just at that footage, I mean, it is more than 100,000, Mike. I mean, I don't know how they must be able to work these things out. They would if it wasn't a far-right protest and not far. But, I mean, that is significantly more than 100,000.
It's got to be at least 500,000, if not more.
I think so. I really do.
It could be as many as 1 million. It's really hard to tell. I don't, I can't count, in actual individual heads. But in the end, as Katie Hopkins said, it doesn't really matter what the number is. You can see it's a massive protest. It's a massive turnout of ordinary British people who have had enough.
Who've had enough. And I think a lot of people feel, though, a bit powerless about kind of what is the mechanism to get any change. Because, look, you have a massive, massive turnout like that, and then it's branded as sort of far right.
Yeah, but only by the Prime Minister, who is going to be soon branded
many people.
As the ex-Prime Minister. But we'll talk some more about it. Emma's going to stay with us for a little bit longer. Thank you very much indeed for the first hour. We'll be back very shortly with more on what is coming up. We've got a huge week coming up. Starmer fighting for his life in Downing Street, and Donald Trump's coming to visit him on Wednesday. What could go wrong? What possibly could go wrong? Let's just talk.
I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so we reach that level in 2027.
The answer from European capitals has been as resounding as it is clear. We are in an era of rearmament to respond to the short-term urgency to act and to support Ukraine, but also to address the long-term need to take on more responsibility for our own European security.
On Saturday, we also agreed a new £2.2 billion loan for Ukraine, backed not by the British taxpayer, but by the profits from frozen Russian assets. It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know.
He is a great gentleman. A great gentleman. He said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time, and he better not be right. Well, I just think he should be more appreciative, because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us, because as you know, that's right there, that's the border.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 7. It is, of course, Monday, the 15th of September, halfway through the month already, and it's a big week because on the front pages this morning, Keir Starmer would appear to be fighting for his life, ladies and gentlemen. Incredibly, you know, I was the guy that said that he's not going to see out his term. It now looks as though everybody else agrees with me, including many Labour-supporting members of the party. Benefits rebels in particular rallying behind Andy Burnham, it says on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. They're ready for a challenge to Keir Starmer's leadership of the party. They already defeated him in Parliament when they were clear that they didn't want to have any welfare cuts coming in. It now looks as if they're going to back Andy Burnham, who wants to become an MP, to see whether he can then launch a proper challenge. But basically, the word on the street is that Starmer's regime is coming to an end. Incredible stuff. Front page of the Daily Mail says, scramble inside number 10 to save Starmer. It's like Operation Save Two-Tier Keir, because he's now got himself become so unpopular that nobody really wants to know him. He's toxic. He's completely and utterly useless. And what he can do for the Labour government is make sure that they never, ever get elected ever again if he stays in power. Also, further revelations on the Mandelson front. It looks as though officials did know details of Mandelson's Epstein emails. These are the emails that he sent him the convicted paedophile, to tell him that he should challenge the conviction and that he should fight the conviction that he was done for procuring minors for sex. But they insist that Keir Starmer wasn't told, that he was left in the dark. And apparently there was a massive row last week when it was all discovered that Morgan McSweeney was the man behind getting Mandelson the job as ambassador to be in Washington, D.C. for this government. You're supposed to protect me from things like this, apparently is what Starmer said to have said to Morgan McSweeney, who is supposedly now being called the real Deputy Prime Minister. So it's all gone a bit wrong, really. Emma Wolf is here with us. Thanks, Emma, for staying with us. It's absolutely incredible how quickly this entire government seems to have sort of collapsed from the inside, because that's exactly where we are. Lots of stories as well about Ricky Hatton. Rest in peace, champ, is what it says on the front page of The Sun. And, of course, we're building up to the Trump visit, which takes place on Wednesday, said to be one of the biggest security operations ever launched in the United Kingdom. 5 minutes past 7, this is Morning Glory.
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Lots of great messages coming in. Good morning, Mike. Marco from Swindon. I was at the Kingdom rally on Saturday, and despite left-wing media saying 150,000 people, this was a complete understatement. The place was absolutely heaving from Blackfriars Station all the way to Westminster. It was certainly something to behold. I don't think there's any question about that. Emma, thank you very much for staying with us. You were about to say something.
Well, yeah, well, I was going to say so many things. It's not only, just to go back to Mandelson, it's not only that those emails said, you know, we can protect you, we can help you, to Epstein. He was also saying we can turn this to your advantage. You know, adversity can be an opportunity.
Right.
And this is a guy who was a convicted paedophile.
Yeah, and he was basically saying you should study the art of war and all this kind of, you know, highfalutin sort of political speak. Yeah. Yeah. It's all very strange.
But for Starmer, can we just go back to what a disaster this is? Some of the quotes in the papers this morning with ministers, previously loyal ministers, talking about this is a death knell, he's in the last chance saloon, worst week of his political life, the total disaster, new term starts at Westminster, he's bungled Rayner, he's bungled Mandelson. People are really, really not happy with this Prime Minister.
He's got no friends left in the room, it seems to me.
In the room, exactly. Yeah. And then there's a lovely quote from a union leader who says, the public don't like him very much. When the public hate you and your colleagues hate you and your chief of staff is probably, you know, out to get you because you're blaming him and he's blaming you. The whole thing looks really terminal.
It really is awful.
For Starmer. If it wasn't for the state visit, you wonder whether he would survive the week.
I know. This is the thing. You know, people kept saying to me last year, but there's no mechanism by which to get rid of him in the Labour government because Labour doesn't work the same way as the Tories. There's no effective 1922 committee. However, I think this has reached such dire straits that so many people want rid of him that they'll find a way.
But will they just still want to save their own backsides? Will people still, MPs, will his party still want to stay in power and just not be brave enough?
Well, there's another sort of scenario which says that he's basically got until May of next year, which is when the local elections happen, and everybody knows what's going to happen there. He's going to get slaughtered. And so even if he lasts until May of next year, that means he'll have to go after that.
And Labour are barely, as you say, they're barely on 20% now. They're way behind reform. And all this stuff about Andy Burnham, you know, he's going to stand in a by-election and become an MP that way. There are no safe seats left for Labour, really, are there?
No, there's no guarantee.
He could really mess it up, even worse, and lose his mayorship.
I think the one he's talking about is Andrew Gwynn's seat, which is in a sort of very close... no, he's the guy who wanted pensioners to die, do you remember?
Oh, yes,
and he had to be removed. He's one of the lesser scandals that they had. He sent out tweets...
he didn't beat up a constituent?
He didn't do that,
Not that guy?
No, this is the guy who sent out various tweets about the winter fuel allowance and how it was a good idea to withdraw it from some pensioners because some of them might die and it would save us a load of money on the NHS.
It's perfect.
So he's gone and he was suspended, and I think there's a by-election coming. And that's in the sort of adjacent constituency to Angela Rayner's. So, I mean, it's a Manchester constituency, so that you would think Burnham would win that. But I don't know, as you say, I mean, anything's possible. If Reform put up a decent candidate, you know, he might lose. And how hilarious would that be?
I don't think we should underestimate the anger all over the country. It's not, like I said in the last hour, it's not like Andy Burnham is the king of the North.
He's really
That's not what people say in the North.
No, and he's not that good anyway. I mean, that's the other thing. Andy Burnham would make Labour a bit more popular, so let's not have a change of leadership. Carry on, Keir, says Jess in Dover. That would make a great Sun headline. Well, exactly right. And David in Spain, this is the other big story that we're going to talk about in a minute, the new one-in, one-out scheme, right?
Please.
Which is supposedly going to happen this week. When Keir Starmer said one in, one out, he wasn't talking about immigration at all. He was secretly describing the Labour Party's weekly rota, says David in Spain.
I was going to say something even ruder there, but I won't. I mean,
exactly
really.
Right. But this is the thing. So according to the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who's only been in charge for about a week and a bit.
And has made 10 videos in that time.
She's made 10 videos and let in, 5 times more migrants than had come in for any previous week since about 3 years ago. Basically, according to the government, beginning today, they're going to start flying migrants out of Britain into France to Charles de Gaulle Airport on commercial flights. Air France commercial flights, where you're going to be, there's a pretty good chance if you're flying there today, you'll be sitting next to a migrant.
With their belongings in a blue plastic bag.
Yeah, and who's either handcuffed to somebody escorting them or not, but there'll be one person escorting for every migrant. So who knows what that's going to look like?
Who knows? And actually, the detail of it has sort of gone all fuzzy, hasn't it? Because a few days ago they were saying, yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the flights are booked, or 100 people, around 100 people have been, have been okayed by the French government. They're going back. And by the way, we're going to get our lot back here, which we don't want.
No.
But now it's gone all sort of vague, and we're not really sure. We can't actually. Peter Carl yesterday. You played a bit of that interview, was not very clear about exactly when the detail, when they're leaving and how many are going.
And how many are there?
How many are going? They can't, they can't release any sensitive information because it might help the people traffickers.
And also on what basis they're detaining people, because if you remember when they first introduced the whole idea of one in, one out, which is laughable anyway because it's not. That very first weekend, if you remember, the TikTok migrant came in, do you remember, and was putting TikTok things out, and he definitely came illegally, and yet within 24 hours he'd found his way to a hotel by Heathrow Airport where he was doing social media hits.
A very nice hotel where he was making TikTok videos telling other people how to come here and what a cushy life it was.
Yeah.
So is he going?
So apparently not.
I think it's people who arrived in August, but what about the previous?
But he was one. He was one of the ones who arrived the first weekend it was supposed to be happening, but he got past whatever it was the detention centre was and found himself in a hotel near Heathrow.
Well, we want to do what Chris Philp said for the Conservatives, which is anyone who arrives illegally should be deported.
Yeah. I think that would
not
be...
one in, one out.
That would be straightforward, but that's not what we're going to do.
But we've had over 1,000 since she even said that.
Oh, God, it's more like 2. It's more like 2 or 3. Let's have a voice note from Lisa on the march.
Morning, Mike. It's Lisa from Canterbury. You're talking about the march on Saturday. I think it actually did go into about 2 to 3 million. I watched the whole thing all day long. Absolutely fantastic event. Not one of our top government were there to support it all. And then Keir Starmer's got the absolute cheek to say that our flag represents diversity. No, it doesn't. It represents the UK, is what it does. And calling all these people, all the families and children and elderly people and everybody far right, he's an absolute disgrace.
He's a clown, isn't he? He's actually a clown. This one from Norm says the Tories had Operation Save Big Dog, for which the Labour Party ridiculed them for. What should they call the operation to save Starmer? In fact, scrub that. I don't think there is a will within the party to do that.
I don't think
they want to save him, do you?
No. And I mean, there's so many words that one could use there. Well, apparently it's called Operation Save Starmer, but I mean, that must be only a very few people. I wonder if it's just his wife and children who are... Because I don't think anyone else in number 10 particularly
Well, it turns out it doesn't look like Morgan McSweeney wants to save him either.
I don't even know if his wife does.
No, who can say? Here's another clip. Bridget Phillipson launched her campaign yesterday to become deputy leader of the Labour Party. And her and her mum were apparently just on their own together, raising a family, you know. Have a look at this.
So that's why today I pledge to continue Angela Rayner's campaigning role as deputy leader, continuing her mission to give members a strong voice at that cabinet table, her ruthless focus on getting our candidates elected and re-elected, alongside her total determination to drive change from government. And I saw that close up.
Yeah, total determination to drive change in government, but i.e. by getting herself replaced. That's how you drive change in government for Angela Rayner. So she's hitching her wagon very much to the Angela Rayner brigade, right? But in fact, she's not really part of that group because she's the one that Starmer wants to be Deputy Prime Minister, and I can't imagine Angela Rayner wants anything that Keir Starmer wants, having been fired by him.
There's a lot of factions going on. There's a lot of unhappiness. Can you imagine the WhatsApp groups right now?
Yeah, yeah. But they're all actually like rats in a sack,
They really are. and everybody's fighting for, out for themselves. And this contest is
might as well have it as a competition.
Anyone survives. Is it October? I can't remember the deputy leadership thing.
I think they have to have it sorted by the time they have their conference, which I think is.
They need the unions. Have they all got their union backings?
Well,
they need 3 unions, I think.
Well, Angela Rayner was backed by Unite, and so if Bridget Phillipson is indeed her kind of candidate, then she'll be backed by Unite. But I'm not sure if she is.
No.
Don't know.
And then straight after the state visit, we've got the Labour Party conference, haven't we?
Yes. And so I think they have to decide either at or before the Labour Party conference. The vote has to take place either at the conference or before it.
And will Starmer survive to the conference? That's the other one.
Well, I mean, you'd have to think something have to be pretty bad to happen. But I mean, if it turns out that there's all kinds of jiggery pokery when it comes to national security and the information that should have been passed wasn't passed, or that information was withheld, particularly,
or there's more details in the emails. I think the next few days are crucial before Trump arrives, because then things can actually happen.
Yeah. Exactly right. It's an absolute nightmare for Starmer. Stephen Cambridge says Starmer should have longer to prove his one-out, one-in migrant scheme. It seems to be working very well with his ministers. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? They're not doing very well at all. Margaret, currently in Tunisia, she says, regarding Mandelson, we, the general public, knew he had a relationship with Epstein and that he was a bit of a sleazy character. So if we knew, everybody knew, including Starmer. He has to go, as this is yet another lie. I think his time as head of the prosecution service should be looked at as well. Yeah, well, I know, there's so much going on.
There is so much, exactly, in the background there.
Yeah, very much so. Emma, listen, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed for hanging around with us. The sun appears to have come up now, at least. It's not quite as grim as it was earlier. Emma Wolf was here for the first hour as well. We've got plenty more to talk about, including coming up. Alp Mehmet is going to be here from Chairman of Migration Watch. We'll see what he makes of this ridiculous one-in, one-out scheme, which probably, maybe, possibly gets underway today. This is Talk.
Said and done things that have broken the law, and I do believe in forgiveness and repentance. He's done his time. That means that he gets at least legally a clean slate, and I think that means that particularly where he's demonstrated contrition, and he's admitted to all his many faults, it doesn't mean that we can simply throw the baby out with the bathwater with this guy, because he's always acting from a place of emotional integrity.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to very nearly 19 minutes past 7. It is, of course, Monday, September the 15th, and we are here for the duration till 10 o'clock. There's all kinds of flack flying around. You can't imagine what it must be like to be Keir Starmer inside Downing Street this morning, waking up to yet another storm of protest, not just from the people of this country who marched around by the hundreds of thousands, and possibly as many as 1 million on Saturday, but, you know, inside his own party now, there is such disquiet that he cannot even move for people who want to get rid of him. You know, Andy Burnham in Manchester is already rallying the troops. Now, you may say that Andy Burnham's got no chance of doing anything because he's not indeed the Messiah. And certainly there was stuff going around at the weekends. Simon Danchuk's been tweeting about it, where Nigel Farage said, you know, we'll throw the kitchen sink at Andy Burnham if he actually tries to run in a by-election. And he might not even win it. In which case he doesn't become an MP, in which case he can't challenge to be leader of the party. Bridget Phillipson, meanwhile, even though picked by Starmer to be his number 2, is probably manoeuvring to try and dislodge him as Prime Minister anyway. And then on the migrant front, we've got supposedly a bunch of flights leaving today, which will have Air France all over the tail, and there will be commercial flights with migrants on them who are supposedly not meant to be here. But nobody knows if it's going to happen. Jane says this: I don't think there's going to be any flights today, Mike, because they could be grounded by lawyers. And that's what it says in the Mail. Labour's migrant returns deal with France will be hit with a slew of last-minute legal challenges. And this is what the Conservatives are predicting, because that's what happened when they were in charge. Let's talk to Alp Mehmet, who's chairman of Migration Watch. Alp, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to see you. I have to say, unless something has changed dramatically in the world of immigration lawyers, there will be major challenges to these deportations, no doubt. And it all seems a bit weird the way they're doing it, doesn't it?
It's more empty, fruitless, pointless policy, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
It is a nonsense. Who's actually going back? Who's selected them? How have they been selected? What are the nationalities? 40 a week? Come on.
Well, we don't even know how many they detained. We don't even know how many people they actually arrested and have been holding for the last couple of weeks. And we don't even know on what grounds they did that.
No, we don't. We don't know that. And let's face it, since this deal, which has cost us £100 million, was signed in July, something like 8,000 have arrived.
Right.
If you're sending 40 a week back, that will take nearly 4 years. Over 4 years, at the present rate, we're going to get another 200,000 in. And however many we send back, even if we sent 8,000 back, we're actually going to get 8,000 in return.
In return, yeah.
How on earth is that going to deter anyone from taking their chance? And what we don't know is who the French are actually sending back to us.
Right.
How have they been selected? So it's all rubbish.
It is rubbish, and the only end result is that we end up with more people here that we don't really want, effectively.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
How do they come up with this kind of nonsense? I mean, what kind of brain would have to come up with this and then try and convince the British public that it's a good deal?
Well, the brain that's come up with it thinks that if they can give the impression of action, then the pressure will come off. Well, it's fatuous, absolutely vacuous stuff, and the pressure won't come off. All it will do is build pressure on the government, because clearly they won't be doing anything about it.
Yeah, exactly right. Because, again, to look at what's going wrong in this country, all you need to do is look at any kind of public sector business, right? This morning you could look at the Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency, the DVLA, which apparently has come out and said that to Heidi Alexander, the Transport Secretary, the reason why we're having trouble getting so many driving tests organised is because of the scale of immigration and the demand from people from non-EU countries who are trying to get driving licences, because many of them are being helped by local authorities to have tests organised for them.
Mike, we heard a few weeks ago, it was in July, we heard that something like 700,000 people have been added to our population to the end of June 2024.
Right.
every single local authority in the country had an increase in its population.
Yeah. And that
Only
has
one,
put pressure.
One in Lincolnshire didn't have it.
Right.
If you've got that sort of increase, which is driven by immigration, if you've got that sort of increase annually, of course there's going to be pressure on all our services,
Yeah.
on our housing as well.
Yeah. And on the NHS, and on the roads, and on the trains,
Everything.
and on everything.
Everything.
Right?
Everything.
Right.
Absolutely everything. And that's why it's not just, I mean, 40 a week, that's laughable. What we've got to do is really start removing those who are here illegally and bear down on the numbers coming in. That's what's got to happen. And I'm afraid there's zilch chance of that happening with the present government.
Yeah, it's never going to change, is it? And meanwhile, you've got Keir Starmer sort of rocking around Downing Street on his own. You know, every door he opens, there's somebody in there that doesn't like him. And he doesn't know what to do about it. He seems to have completely lost control of his own government. He seems to have completely lost power. Shabana Mahmood came in and has been sort of boasting about what she's done in the first week of being Home Secretary. But in fact, all she's really done is managed to increase by 5-fold the number of migrants who've come into the country.
Well, if I was Shabana Mahmood when I was and I were asked to take over as Home Secretary under the present government, under the present Prime Minister, I would have said no, thank you, because all she's going to do is fail like every other Home Secretary has over the last whatever 10 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's literally the job that nobody can do, isn't it? Everybody who comes in makes a lot of noise about how they're going to do a different job to the person who just did it before them. And then in the end, you know, a few months later, they walk off tail between their legs, having been able to achieve absolutely nothing.
Yeah, what gets me, Mike, is that they surely must know that the sort of ridiculous policies that they come up with and the measures that they put in place just won't have any impact. Until we start getting serious about returns, then I'm afraid the flows will continue at the present astronomical levels.
Well, the thing is, it was only, what, 2 or 3 months ago when we had that video that the government put out where they had about sort of 6 people. There was the person in charge of the National Crime Agency, there was the person in charge of border control, there was the border commander, there was this, that, and, you know, about 6 of them all sitting there talking about this coordinated approach, the result of which has been nothing, literally nothing.
No, nothing. We've also got a border control, border command head who's actually working from home in Finland, for goodness sake.
Right.
That's why I say that the present government, their heart isn't in it.
Yeah.
The political will isn't there. We have an international lawyer, human rights lawyer in charge, who believes that the human rights and the rights of those coming in illegally trump those of the people here.
Yeah.
Now, how on earth are you going to get any incentive to come up with the policies that are going to have the desired effect when you don't actually want the desired effect?
Exactly. Well, Bridget Phillipson said those very words, didn't she, when she was interviewed last weekend, not this past one, the one before, where she actually admitted that the migrant rights trump the rights of ordinary citizens.
Yeah, indeed. And they're also now beginning to talk about tweaking the ECHR. Well, it needs more than tweaking, I'm afraid. And 2 Home Secretaries, 1 Foreign Secretary, Lord Sumption, they've all said that the ECHR, as it is now, is not fit for purpose.
Yes.
And what they've got to do is actually say, here's our notice to quit. 6 months later, we're out.
Yeah.
Now, if we want to put something in its place, and we probably do, then fine, we can do it while we're out. And if we leave, others will leave as well. Of that, I'm pretty confident.
Yes, I think there's plenty of countries that already have kind of in their minds left anyway, because they don't seem to pay that much attention. We seem to be alone in the fact that we wrote in to our own human rights bill some kind of adherence to the ECHR, which we didn't need to do.
Well, look, our laws all the time, whenever we introduce a bill, becomes an act, it always refers to legislation that is impacted. And quite often, as has happened with the present bill going through, that not yet an act, the legislation that is affected or will be affected is either repealed and the new legislation takes over, or more legislation is introduced, more laws are introduced to counter whatever it is that has been repealed. That can happen with the Human Rights Act. We can easily repeal it and we can deal with the impacted bits of the law.
Yes, exactly right. Meanwhile, we await with bated breath the first signs of the first people being chucked onto an Air France plane and escorted off to Charles de Gaulle Airport. We'll keep. I wouldn't hold your breath though. Mehmet, thank you very much
we're
indeed.
giving money to Air France, no doubt, for taking them back.
Oh yeah, and we're also having them accompanied by one. So it's actually it's one in, two out. But one of them comes back, and then somebody else comes back as well. It's quite easy to track. It's ridiculous. Al Mehmet, Chairman of Migration Watch, thank you very much indeed. Let's get a voice note from Sam on arming the police.
Morning, Mike. Great show. Regarding arming police officers, in principle, yes. However, they will need protection against being falsely accused of murder. They should basically have what they have in most of the states, where if there is a perceived threat, either with a weapon, especially a firearm or a machete, if they, one of their colleagues or a member of the public is under immediate threat of being maimed or killed, they are to basically shoot him using lethal force, basically bring him down with no repercussions, or you'll just get a mass exodus from the police. They'll just all leave. They won't want to risk it.
I'm sure that's right. One from Anne in Archway says, so Epstein's crimes only involved underage girls, so the government are saying it doesn't matter, just as the rape gangs Labour also ignored. Surely any mention of Epstein, says Peter in Suffolk, should have been a red flag for Starmer, bearing in mind what happened to Prince Andrew. Well, you would have thought so. But now they're all scrambling around like rats in a sack, as I say, trying to make out that nobody told anyone what was going on. Mick says this, as a retired firearms officer, I'm seriously concerned about reported recent calls to routinely arm all police officers. Many of today's recruits do not have the character to possess a lethal weapon and are not properly vetted. I would not issue them with a water pistol. Crikey. And Sarah from Peterborough says, I attended the Free Speech March on Saturday with my Jamaican British-born husband and our children. It's not about race or colour, it's about the fact that millions of people have had enough. It felt like we had to be there. It's the start of something big. The British people have had enough. I think that's right. And one from Margaret in Yorkshire who says, Mike, could you give a mention to the 15th of September Battle of Britain Day Remembrance? Thank you. Yes, well, in fact, Robert Jenrick has come out yesterday and said that he believes that people in British schools, as a matter of course, should be taught all about the Battle of Britain. And it makes you think, why on earth are they not being taught about the Battle of Britain? Why would anybody not want to teach children about what happened in the Second World War and how brave our members of the RAF were? Extraordinary. 0344 499 1000. Coming up, we're going off to Los Angeles to get the latest from Charles Feldman on the Charlie Kirk suspect, who it turns out was in a romantic relationship with his transgender roommate, of all things. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:35. I'm Mike Graham with you, of course, all the way through until 10 o'clock. It is Monday. Well, it's not Friday, it's Monday, September the 15th. There's one for the Friday gaffs. Great show, Mike, says Michael in North Staffordshire. I know ex-Prince Harry is always after us paying for him, so he has arrived in London and left his wife and kids abroad. I'm certainly qualifies for a free hotel, food, benefits, trips and a phone whilst he is here. When he wants to go home, we will give him £2,500 to do so, and Kirk can count his return in the figures. Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised if you put it past him like that, would you? I went to the UTK on Saturday, says Nan in Wales. I wanted to support the country just to get some sense of belonging. Turns out everyone I met felt about the same. It was a lovely day. I think so. This from Steve, who was also on the march.
Hi, Mike. Steve from Portsmouth. Good morning. Great show. You've got to ask yourself, and I think we all know the answer, why the mainstream media tried to quote numbers of 100,000, 115,000. Anyone with a set of eyes could see there are at least 500,000 to 1 million people at that march. Anyone that's seen Wembley at the end of a game and the crowds coming out will know the crowds at that march were in the 500,000 to 1 million strong. So why did the mainstream media and the BBC want to actually claim it was 100 to 115,000? Obvious reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. And isn't it interesting that I suppose when the official figure is released as 110,000, then the media feels safe in reporting it as that, because that's what they've been told. But as you say, if you compare that to a Wembley crowd emptying out and getting down to the tube station and getting into coaches and all the rest of it, you know, that is way and above a Wembley crowd, possibly by at least a factor of 5, maybe more, you know. But also, I don't understand why they want to make out as fewer people than are actually there. What's the point of that exactly? To sort of pretend that, you know, people can't see it on TV. Why would you say, you know, it's like saying, you know, the queue for the, I don't know, passport control at John F. Kennedy Airport was really, really short if it was actually really, really long. Why would, you know, I don't understand why you would do it. But anyway, listen, keep your thoughts coming in on that throughout the march, because obviously we've got the government, the lying Labour government, to contend with, you know. And we've got Keir Starmer talking about, you know, people being vile and horrible to the police when there was only a handful, in fact, a couple of handfuls of arrests compared to what happened at Notting Hill just a couple of weekends ago. But we'll come back to that. Let's talk to Charles Felber now, US political analyst in Los Angeles, California, because, of course, the big story last week was the murder of Charlie Kirk, and the assailant, Tyler Robinson, 22 years of age, is now in custody. He's been arrested on suspicion of killing the Conservative activist. It turns out he's been living with a biological man, transitioning to become a woman, according to the Utah governor, which I suppose might not surprise that many people. Charles, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Mike.
Well, I mean, what a story this is, and how incredible that such a thing could happen in this day and age, I suppose. I mean, what I haven't seen much of is the kind of the conversation around security for Charlie Kirk, because obviously we've got security very much foremost in our minds because Donald Trump's coming on Wednesday, and obviously a lot of security for him for that. But I guess there wasn't such security for Charlie Kirk, was there?
Not really. I mean, there was some security from the university where he was speaking, and security has followed him in recent years. But, you know, look, it was an open space. It's a college campus, and colleges like to at least pretend that they are places that encourage free speech. So, you know, they don't like to have a heavy police presence, and so they didn't.
Right. There seems to as well be a bit of confusion over his political antecedents, doesn't there? Because at the time when he was... before he was apprehended, actually, there was some suggestion that there had been a lot of transgender messaging on the bullets and on you know, other sort of shell cases and that kind of thing. It now seems like a slightly more mixed message, because there are some now saying that he was part of this kind of Groyper movement, which is more of a right-wing thing, that he's been pictured in that little squat. They call it a Slav squat, which apparently is also a bit of a right-wing trope. So it's not that clear. I guess the most clear bit is the fact that if he was living with somebody who's transitioning to be a woman, he might be driven by that in some way.
Yeah, this is a very confusing story, at least as of now, Mike. And you're quite right. There have been many different things that have come up in the past few days. Initially, it was thought that he was sort of a leftist, and then it turned out his parents are, MAGA people, Make America Great people. Then it was said that he was one, but he didn't vote for President Trump. It's been all over the map. And to be quite honest, I'm not quite sure anyone at the moment really knows what his motivation was or what his own political philosophy, if he has any, actually is. He has not been cooperating apparently with authorities. He's not actually even confessed to the murder. So at the moment, he is remaining apparently silent. The only thing that seems to be sure, if you want to say that anything about this story is sure, is that those casings that you talk about, it does seem as if there were these sort of anti-fascist, if you will, engravings on these casings. Whether or not that is proof of any sort of political ideology that he may or may not have, I don't know.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously in kind of the aftermath of all of these events, there's, people like to blame one side or the other, but in this case, it's kind of unknown, really.
Well, that's right. I mean, President Trump was very quick, and perhaps too quick, to say that this is the result of the rhetoric from the left. But it isn't, as we've just discussed, it isn't at all clear that the assailant, the shooter, is somebody from the left. He may be, he may not be. But, look, at the end of the day, of course, nobody deserves what happened to Charlie Kirk. I had Kirk on my old radio show a few years ago, and I found him to be a very engaging and charismatic type person. I didn't always agree with things that he said, but one of the things that he was adamant about was that it was important for people who don't agree to debate. Not to debate through violent acts, but to debate through verbal acts.
Yes. And he also did cut through very much to the younger generation, people like you and I whose days may be numbered and past, I mean, my son, in fact, my 18-year-old son, very much aware of him, knew exactly who he was and had seen loads of his stuff on YouTube and was a big fan, And there's an awful lot of that in different countries around the world that he had sort of garnered. And every single almost, debate that you can see him taking part in, he's absolutely insisting that, we're not about fighting, we're about debating. And people, I don't know if you've seen it, you probably have. There's one particular exchange that he's got with this older guy who's like threatening to have a fight with him, saying, "Why don't you fight me? That's what we do here in the Wild West." And he's like, "I don't want to fight you. I'm here to debate you. Why do you want to have a punch up? And so a lot of it was very non-violent as well."
Oh yeah, I mean his impact on Gen Zers and I guess what do they call the newest ones, alphas or whatever they call them.
God knows.
Whatever letter they're up to, has actually been profound for the past few years. And I'll tell you a very interesting quick story. The California governor, Gavin Newsom, who of course is pretty much of a leftist, and I think he would be proud to say that. He had Charlie Kirk as his very first guest on his own podcast, and one of the things that he told Kirk was that his child, Newsom's child, young kid, wanted to stay up and not go to school, stay up later, not go to school, I forgot which one, because he was a fan of Charlie Kirk, and that's Governor Newsom's kid. So it shows you how this guy was able to cut across a lot of different, aspects of social life.
Right. And if this Tyler Robinson guy does turn out to be the suspect, he certainly is one of the suspects anyway. If it turns out that he's taken to trial, would the death penalty be sought for him, do you think, in Utah?
Very possibly. Certainly President Trump said that that's what his desire would be, but the president doesn't really have that call. And even if the death penalty were to be given in the United States, that is a very long process, and I suspect that many, many, many years would go by if he's convicted before such a penalty would ever be carried out.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we'll get Trump over here for a few days so you can have a bit of a rest from him. So we'll see what we can do. Charles, thank you very much indeed. Charles Feldman, US political analyst in Los Angeles there in California. Mick says this, it's kind of a long one this, so I'll just take my time reading it. Michael in North Staffordshire. I went to the Freedom Unite the UK march on Saturday. I arrived at 11 a.m. and walked for 3 hours getting as far as Westminster Bridge until the police closed the bridge and redirected me to Trafalgar Square, to the far left protesters that I was allowed to walk straight through the centre of. As an ex-cop of 30 years service, I was surprised to see how incapable the Met were at keeping the two groups separated. As for cops getting hurt, no doubt some did, but the size of quite a few of them was like sending in an 8-year-old to go and play football against 18-year-olds, and they wonder why they get pushed about on the front line. There were easily 1 million people there on the Patriot side and easily 800 to 1,000 on the left side. And by the left side, I'm not referring to the police. The silent majority has cleared its throat and has made itself heard. I think that's right. I think there's no question about that. Thanks for the common sense, says Flick in Tolls Hunt, Darcy, deepest Essex. I'm waiting for Trump to give Two-Tier a letter from the King telling him to resign. Can you imagine? Was that the last time they were together when Keir Starmer produced the letter that was like Mr. Uriah Heep turning up at the White House? Have a look at this.
It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know.
He is a great gentleman. A great, great gentleman. That is really nice. I must make sure his signature's on that. Otherwise, it's not quite as meaningful. It is, and that's quite a signature, isn't it? Beautiful. He's a beautiful man, a wonderful man, and we appreciate it. I've known him, gotten to know him very well, actually. First term and now second term. Perhaps you'd like to say what that very important paragraph...
Yes, so this is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolises the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter. I think the last state visit was a tremendous success.
It was.
His Majesty the King wants to make this even better than that. So this is truly historic, an unprecedented second state visit. He wants to talk that through with you.
And that says at Windsor. That's really something.
Yeah, so that was the invitation. He kept putting his hand on him. What's that all about? You know, that thing with the hand. You just go, oh, take your hand off him. Just take it off him. Anyway, so he's coming on Wednesday, right? Unfortunately for Keir Starmer, his life could not be at a lower ebb. His political career could not be further down the gurgler. And Donald Trump, I'm sure, will make hay out of that, almost certainly. And he'll probably want to spend more time with the King than he will with the Prime Minister, which will make Starmer hate him even more. Also, when he talks about the last state visit being such a great success, well, no thanks to the Labour Party, no thanks to David Lammy, who was categorically demonstrating against him. No thanks to Sadiq Khan, who allowed people to float an orange baby-sized balloon above Trump's visit. No thanks to anybody in the Labour cabinet who all detest him, including Keir Starmer, basically, who said he didn't want to have him around for dinner. How things change. Let's get a voice note from Steve.
On the march on Saturday, the only time there was any violence, any flare-ups, was when the Metropolitan Police deliberately brought the lefties and Antifa within touching distance of the march. There was absolutely no need for them to do that. They could have kept them well away. But no, they had to bring them into contact deliberately with the marchers to stir up trouble. And consequently, they are directly responsible for any trouble that happened.
Steve, thank you very much indeed. Well, we'll certainly be finding out what happened there, because Richard Donaldson joins us coming up next. He's the leader of the Great British National Protest, and he joins us after this.
said and done things that have broken the law. And I do believe in forgiveness and repentance. He's done his time. That means that he gets at least legally a clean slate. And I think that means that, particularly where he's demonstrated contrition, and he's admitted to all his many faults. It doesn't mean that we can simply throw the baby out with the bathwater with this guy, because he's always acting from a place of emotional integrity.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:53 very nearly. We're here with you all the way through until 10 o'clock, of course. This is the same Peter Kyle, says Lisa, who a couple of weeks ago on Sky was trying to tarnish Nigel Farage, Ray Jimmy Savile, a paedophile, and yesterday was defending Mandelson's relationship with one. What a hypocrite. Yeah, that's quite a good point, actually. I didn't really think of that. What an opportunity for a relaunch of the old Pinewood studio franchise called Carry On Kia, says Pete in Swansea, with the 21st century Bernard Bresslaw as the Prime Minister. Not so much a comedy as a docudrama. Yeah, or a disaster movie, perhaps. He's hiding in number 10 right now, trying to figure out which way to turn, see if he can find somebody who's friends with him. Doesn't really have much luck at the moment. Let's talk to Richard Donaldson, though. He was at the march and the protest on Saturday. Ex-British Army soldier, father and husband, it says here. Richard, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Thank you very much for having me on.
Not at all. Thanks very much for being on. I mean, it seems like it was a great day out. It seems like it was a fantastic just show of strength, really, of the great British public and the great British kind of talent for fairness and just going out there and having a good time. I mean, what do you make of what Keir Starmer's been saying about it?
Well, do you know, I think it would almost be funny if it wasn't so infuriating, you know, for our Prime Minister to see his people turn up in their millions, flying our flags, singing, dancing, laughing, uniting. It's literally called Unite the Kingdom. For him to see that and to immediately attempt to spin the narrative and say that this was a group of people who, you know, wanted to fly our own country's flag to cause violence, fear and division is disgusting. I was there, Mike. The atmosphere was electric. People were talking to strangers, laughing, singing and dancing. And here's the thing, there were black people there, brown people, there were Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, all taking part. There were all kinds of people there who were either born here or who have come here, who just love this country and want to do their bit to stand up for it. For Keir Starmer, our leader, to put that post out, to try and spin the narrative that he has done, well, I think that in itself is likely to cause far more division than anything that happened during that march. And for the Metropolitan Police, can I just say as well, for the Metropolitan Police, because this hasn't had much coverage, to also put a post out on their socials that was 5 years old and try and link that to the United Kingdom march on Saturday is absolutely abhorrent.
Was this when they put out a piece of footage which turns out not to have been from the day itself?
That's right, yeah, it's from 2020. They haven't addressed it.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Because it helps to spin the narrative. I mean, look, numbers were estimated to have been well over 1 million. I don't know how many people were there. I think it's impossible to tell.
Right.
But for only 24...
It's clearly a hell of a lot more than 110,000.
Absolutely. It was way more. And for only 24 arrests to have been made, I think it's fantastic, OK? I'm just being honest. And the fact that Keir Starmer chose to look at the 0.0008% of people who may or may not have been guilty of anything. Remember, it's just an arrest. It's not a conviction. For him to focus solely on that is it's a sign of the times at the minute. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
The Metropolitan Police know what they were doing. And I think the government in general, they know exactly what they are doing. These were ordinary people who are the backbone of this country. And it's Keir Starmer with his tired, overused gaslighting tactics that are causing the actual division here.
Yeah. Well, if you're judging by what's being said in the newspapers this morning about Keir Starmer, I think you guys are going to be around a lot longer than he is. So, you know, I don't think he's got much to look forward to be honest.
No. And here's the thing, I mean, not to want to compare, you know, apples and pears, but there were 500 arrests last year alone at the Palestine marches.
Yeah.
Notting Hill Carnival just gone, 423 arrests, and it was a similar sort of turnout, okay?
Yeah.
Yet Keir Starmer and the mainstream media said it was an important and mostly peaceful event. He said it was a joy to see, you know, because of the history of it, because of the things that, you know, black people went through in the 1950s. There's a constant narrative that anything sort of leaning left is fantastic, and anything that, I don't even like this right and left anymore. It's just patriots, it's people who love the land beneath their feet. That's all it is, and we're standing together, like I say, black, white, brown, regardless of religion. There were people from all walks of life standing together, and the narrative that's being spun is, well, it was just a load of far-right racist bigots.
But it's not going to get any smaller, this, is it? It's going to get bigger.
No, it's definitely going to grow. We are rising now, okay? The people of this nation, we won't be treated like second-class citizens anymore, for simply, like I say, loving the land beneath our feet, you know. This is not going to be the end of it. This is just the beginning. You know, look at what, for example, and I don't want to make this about me and the Great British National Protest and what we're doing. We're funding over 40 protests now at the hotels. Right. People are standing up all over the country. You know, what happened on Saturday was monumental, but this is far bigger than that. And I know from talking to people within Tommy's team, and Tommy's put statements out himself. He said, "Look, this is just the beginning."
Yeah, and they don't know what to do with him. They don't know how to deal with him, do they?
No, they don't know how to handle this whole situation. I mean, the fact that millions of people can turn up on the streets in our capital, and the only narrative that Keir Starmer can push, he's either a little bit stupid or he genuinely is wanting some form of unrest. That's the only thing I can think of, because to continue to gaslight people into believing that they are the problem for just turning up on the streets, I don't understand why he would push that.
No, I don't understand it either. Well, listen, good luck to you, Richard, because it was a fantastic-looking event, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come in the future. Ex-British Army soldier, father and husband, Richard Donaldson there. Thanks very much for talking to us. Let's get a quick voice note from Gary.
Morning, Mike. It's Gary from Canterbury. Does this give Keir Starmer an excuse to dodge Prime Minister's question times if Trump's here? Because every time there is an issue, he either leaves the country or decides to do something else apart from where he should be, and then leaves the questioning to someone else. I mean, is he going to dodge it on Wednesday, or is it because of a state banquet, or what? What's the situation with him? Anyway, just my thoughts. I mean, that look on his face when he was like talking about Peter Mandelson. I mean, seriously, he's just awful. Anyway, have a great day, and thanks for a great show, Mike.
Gary, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, there is no Prime Minister's questions this week because technically Parliament is in recess once again because of conference season, which means that we've had the Reform Conference, we're now going to have Labour, we're going to have a Conservative Conference as well. It means that's why they invited Trump to come this week, because then they wouldn't have the embarrassing prospect of whether or not to have him address both houses of Parliament. So because they've shut it down, I mean, they think we're all stupid. Because they've shut it down, it means that he can't address Parliament, which means that we can avoid the embarrassment of Starmer trying to stop him from addressing Parliament, or some other idiot trying to, you know, demonstrate against him. So we've got loads more coming up, though, in the next hour. Marco Longhi's here. This is Talk.
I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so we reach that level in 2027.
The answer from European capitals has been as resounding as it is clear. We are in an era of rearmament to respond to the short-term urgency to act and to support Ukraine, but also to address the long-term need to take on more responsibility for our own European security.
On Saturday, we also agreed a new £2.2 billion loan for Ukraine, backed not by the British taxpayer, but by the profits from frozen Russian assets. It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know. I need to know.
He is a great gentleman. A great gentleman. He said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time, and he better not be right. Well, I just think he should be more appreciative because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us because, as you know, that's right there, that's the border.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are not
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to nearly 3 minutes past 8. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. David Wooding joins us, journalist and political commentator. He's written a big piece in The Sun this morning on page 10. Baroness Kate Hoey will also talk to us about the crisis currently facing Keir Starmer. On the front pages this morning, it doesn't look very good for the Prime Minister, I'm afraid. Front page of the Daily Mail has got this message for him: scramble inside number 10 to save Starmer. Because things are so bad for the Prime Minister right now that he doesn't have any friends, not only in the room, but in the entire building, it would appear. Officials apparently did know details of Sir Lord Mandelson's Epstein emails, but insist the Prime Minister was left in the dark. According to the Daily Mail, number 10 knew at the start of last week that the Labour grandee had suggested paedophile Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged, but seemingly they didn't bother to tell the Prime Minister. It came amid a deepening revolt over Sir Keir's handling of the crisis. Growing speculation the Prime Minister could be ousted before the next general election. Front page of the Daily Telegraph, indeed, has got Andy Burnham up in Manchester, the Mayor of Manchester, thinking about finding himself a safe seat to parachute himself in at a by-election and then challenge the Prime Minister for leadership of the party and indeed then leadership of the entire country. Incredible stuff. Front page of the Times has got bruised Prime Minister hopes deal with the US will quell revolt, because obviously Donald Trump turns up this week amidst all sorts of fanfare. He's going to go to spend time with the King at Windsor, and Keir Starmer's done a deal with the Americans in which a new generation of small nuclear power stations will be built. That's just one of a number of agreements that have been made between the two countries. Starmer says basically that this is his last hope to save his prime ministership, because unfortunately everything else has gone wrong. The only other story that's on the front pages this morning, it's worth mentioning, of course, first migrants set for return to France on commercial flights. This is, as you heard in the news, the first small boat migrants are due to be deported on commercial flights to France every day this week under the so-called one-in, one-out returns deal. Of course, it's not one-in, one-out. What it is that you're going to put a guy on a plane, a commercial plane, with somebody to escort him. They're going to get off at the other end, Charles de Gaulle Airport, no doubt. Where they go after that, nobody knows. And then the same guy that took them over is going to pick up another guy and bring him back instead. So it's not one in, one out, because there's been thousands of people in, maybe half a dozen people out, and another half a dozen people in. It doesn't really have the same ring to it, does it? And I'm sure that it's going to be a complete and utter disaster. And what it won't do is reduce the number of people in this country who shouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. 0344 499 1000 is the number. Also, an awful lot of stories about Ricky Hatton on the front page, who tragically died at the weekend, aged just 46. He's on the front page of The Sun, amongst others. Rest in peace, champ. Tears for the legend of Manchester. He was discovered by police at his 1.75 million mansion in Hyde, Greater Manchester. Tearful fans laid flowers outside in his nearby gym. And Liam Gallagher was the one who said, "Rest in peace, champ. Live forever." A sad story. We've got plenty to do, though. Morning, Mike, says Blake in Wigan. It looks like Keith Starlin is going to be out on his ear. Don't worry, people of Britain. We have the mastermind David Lammy to fall back on. Years. And Peter in Suffolk says, Mike, I never realised being working class was such an advantage in the political field. I was born on a council estate and I was a toolmaker. Surely the front bench is my next destination. Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? And here's one from Julian. It says, have you ever heard anyone apart from Eminem or a Texas cattle auctioneer speak as fast as Bridget Phillipson? Where did Labour find these people? I don't know. Well, should we play a bit of Bridget Phillipson? Because here she is talking about how she's ready to take on Angela Rayner's old job.
I'm proud of where I've come from. I grew up in a council street in Washington, in the northeast of England. Just me and my mum. I've so many memories from that time. I remember one winter, when we were struggling, a neighbour posted an envelope through the letterbox, marked for Bridget's coat. I'll never forget that kindness, that sense of community. Even though it was a tough area, we still had each other. Growing up, my mum founded a charity to provide refuge for women in Sunderland, fleeing domestic violence. We have to come together to beat reform, to beat the division of far-right politics. Because that isn't Britain, and that isn't who we are. The Britain that I know and love is the neighbour who put that envelope through the door. My mum who set up that charity. And Britain is all of our members, all of you who've campaigned so tirelessly for change. And now we've got to get on and deliver. Unite and bring together working people. Take the fight to reform. And that's the deputy leader that I'll be.
Take the fight to reform, eh? Well, they just can't seem to get reform out of their brain, can they? Marco Longhi's here, Reform UK defector, former Conservative MP, of course. Marco, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Mike. Always a pleasure.
Nice to see you. It looks as though Bridget Phillipson wants to take the fight to reform. I don't know why she wants to do that, because it doesn't look like she's going to win.
Well, everybody says that surely the Tories are the official opposition because Reform's only got 4 MPs, and yet all the talk is about reform, and therefore that means that Reform is winning the argument with the nation and the conversation, the debate. That's what's happening.
It certainly seems as though with their kind of collective polling around about 40%, that's the Tories and Labour together, they're not only, they're both in sort of third place, really, aren't they?
Yes, that's right. I can't really see what's going to be happening to Labour now because the people have completely switched off from Labour. If they get Andy Burnham, not only will they have to find a way of getting him to become a member of Parliament, that would mean probably a by-election if it's in this Parliament. He would have to get selected, and I would probably see a lot of people in the Labour Party try to stop that from happening. They're in a complete mess. I think we're in the very real position of having the fantastic pleasure of having David Lammy as potentially our Prime Minister. How about that?
That would be quite bizarre, I think. I mean, I think even those who might enjoy it for a short time would not want it to be for a very long time. But there does seem to be a serious problem at the heart of Downing Street, doesn't there? Not least between Morgan McSweeney and Keir Starmer. They're having a big row as to what they knew and when they knew it and what they were told. But certainly it would appear that the information about Peter Mandelson and his close relationship and his attempt even to get Jeffrey Epstein to sort of get his criminal conviction quashed was known by Downing Street at the start of last week.
Yes, so I think what we are seeing with Keir Starmer is that he will never admit to making a mistake himself. Right. He will never admit to knowing what was there and what wasn't. So it's a free-for-all now in Number 10, everybody trying to cover their own backsides. Yeah. It's a total mess. This is a government in the throes of death. And I have a genuine sense that we might see something very radical happening now within government, even possibly before.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much precedent for it with the Labour government, but I mean, it's almost as though it feels as though anything's possible at the moment. We seem to have entered this very febrile time where nobody seems to know what's going to happen next, and it could well be that things are so bad economically and things are so bad inside the Labour government that the whole thing just collapses.
Absolutely. And I mean, look what Starmer has done to Rachel Reeves. You know, we can all criticise Rachel Reeves for what she did. She did destroy the economy, but for him to now throw her under the bus as if he had no idea as to what happened in the budget before is just ludicrous, isn't it? You know, so this is his style. He will try and survive for as long as he can. But the knives are out now, and I'm afraid that he is toast.
Yeah, I think so. And how would it work, do you think? I mean, you're a parliamentarian of some standing. What would happen within sort of, you know, the parliamentary chamber, if you like? I mean, what pressure could be brought to bear, if you like, by your former party, the Tories, and by the other opposition parties?
I can't see the Tories really capitalising much on this at all, because in the same way that the people of this country have switched off from Labour, they've very much switched off from the Tories as well. A lot of people don't even know that Kemi Badenoch is the leader of the official opposition. Everybody sees Nigel Farage as the leader of the opposition in their eyes. What's going to happen in the chamber? Well, you're going to see a greater polarisation. around different candidates. That will mean that Jeremy Corbyn's lot is probably going to come forward, and that's going to be even worse for Labour. This is a fantastic opportunity for Reform to showcase what it stands for even more with its own common sense policies moving forward. It is still a very small team, obviously with 4 MPs, but even just with 4 MPs, just look at what they're achieving in the rest of the country. And when there is going to be a general election, it's going to be a huge turquoise wave.
Yes, and you've obviously would have seen the conference, the Reform Conference up in Birmingham weekend before last, where it was a remarkable kind of show of strength, really, from around the country, people who just want to see something different.
Graham, sorry, Mike. Why did I call you Graham? It's still a bit early in the morning for me.
Don't worry.
Look, I've been to so many Tory conferences, and the last few conferences I was always looking for an excuse not to go, and it ended up being a few friends. Oh, come on, Marco, let's go. It was boring, and it was a lot of MPs trying to strut their own feathers because they wanted to be the next member of Parliament. It was a real drag. I don't think I've ever been to a conference before, even in the good times of the Conservative Party, where you had so many people turning up and excited, enthusiastic, people who I can't remember how many people have come to me at that conference and saying, I've never been here before, I've never been to a conference before. So it's people who have never been engaged in the political process turning up for the first time and saying, this is great, this is fantastic, where do I go, what do I listen to? And that just tells you what is happening in the rest of the country, and it triangulates really well with all the door knocking I've done as well in the months leading up to the conference. It is such a blow of fresh air and an excitement that real change is possible with reform. And I'm afraid to say the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are two sides of the same battered coin. The people of the country have now switched off from them.
Yeah, I think that's the message that I get quite a lot of times when I get Tory former ministers, shadow ministers on now, particularly when they talk about immigration, because immigration was really what brought them down at the end of the day. Boris Johnson promised 20,000 net immigration in 2019 when he won the election, and it just went from bad to worse. And so people kind of don't really believe a word the Tories say now.
I was always very fond of Boris, and I was loyal to him right until the dying day, because I do know that he was set up. But I don't think he ever really understood the deep nature of anger held in the country over both legal and illegal immigration. And I'm sorry to say that. I think that is a fact. But yes, look, I was campaign manager for a recent by-election in Pelsall. It's an area that I'm not focused on currently because Dudley is the area I'm focusing on. But Pelsall is where I was a councillor for 20 years. So the party asked me to be campaign manager. Now, this was one of the, if not the top safe Conservative seats in the borough of Walsall, probably top 3. And Reform won it, notwithstanding the Conservative Party, past and present, turning up. January, Morton, that's within her seat, and many former MPs turning up. So the whole Conservative Party focused on this one ward, effectively against me and the candidates. And we won. It was narrow, but we won. That shows that there is no such thing as a safe seat anymore, Mike. No. And we're coming, especially in the Black Country. It's going to turn Reform pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, how the country's sort of changing almost before your very eyes in terms of, the demographics of the different constituencies. And for Andy Burnham, for example, he might think he can win a safe seat if he wants to be leader of the Labour Party, but he might find that more difficult than he thinks.
Exactly so, yes. And, everybody knows what these people stood for before. Everybody knows that they are part of the same uni-party. That people have switched off. Look, they can change the logo, but the people know it's the same nonsense.
Indeed. What have you made of this story this morning that supposedly the new one-in, one-out scheme is going to begin? I mean, everybody knows it's not one-in, one-out, but supposedly people are going to be put on planes and deported beginning today on Air France commercial jets, accompanied by, you know, one person from, I think it's what they're calling an outsourced company, who are going to take them back to France, and then they're going to come back with somebody else from France. I mean, the whole system seems mad.
You cannot describe really how tone deaf Number 10 and the whole of the Labour Party is in terms of what the people of this country want. People don't want one in, one out. How does that reduce any numbers?
It doesn't.
We know that, we estimates, and we only know it's estimates because the Home Office do not know how many people are here illegally. But if you do the maths, you're probably talking about a figure of between 1 and 1.5 million, is my guess. And so, for me, what people want is none in and all out. That, if they come up with a logo like that, then people would start paying attention. But that's not reducing the numbers in any way, shape, or form. And when it's costing us 8, 9, 10 million pounds a day in accommodation alone, and never mind any other services these people receive, how is that impacting on those figures? It's not. It's not putting the people of this country first. And they've had enough.
Yeah, and I think that's very clear for everybody to see. Marco, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Marco Longley there, Reform UK defector, former Conservative MP there, saying that, the political parties of old are pretty much over when it comes to the way that many people now view politics. They're just not interested in Labour, not interested in the Tories, much more interested in something different, whether it's Reform, whether it's the Greens, whether it's the new Hezbollah, Jeremy Corbyn party. They're simply not interested anymore in the ways of old, in the two-party system. And that's got to be a real problem for people like Keir Starmer. Let's get a voice note from Andy.
Wonder what today's going to bring us on the political front. Obviously, Starmer's toast. He came out the weekend and was condemning that far-right rally in London just to try and take the heat off himself, but he's already cooked, isn't he? So what's going to happen? Will it be old mastermind in charge for a bit, Lammy? It's actual comedy, isn't it? Anyway, mate, I'm off to the far-right region of Benidorm for my birthday the next few days. I'll report back. Ta-ra, bud.
Well done, Andy. Thank you very much indeed. The far right section of Spain. It's a bit on the right, I suppose, isn't it? It's down there on the east coast. I suppose you could call that to the right. It's 18 minutes past 8. This one from Tom in Bromley. Fantastic show as usual, Mike. Ray Bridget Phillipson. What was in that envelope labelled for Bridget's coat? I expect Lord Ali is already airing the guest bedroom for Keith. Could well be. And Wendy and Clackmannanshire. Morning, Mike. Great show. Thanks. Just heard that clip of Bridget Phillipson using the word fight. Funny how the left are not picking up on that like they are with Elon Musk using the same word on Saturday. Yeah, well, of course, very different. You're allowed to use different words if you're on the left because it doesn't make any difference. Andy from Mansfield says, whoever takes over from Starmer, I hope they've got a less annoying voice. I've got to contact Virgin Media this morning for a new remote because the mute button keeps sticking. I don't blame you. Absolutely mad. Coming up, we're going to look at David Wooding's column in The Sun. He says the Raptors have their claws out. Keir is a dead man walking. A little bit later on in the show, Harry Cole's here, of course, as well. He's the Sun's editor-at-large. Fed up with all the potholes in the road, says David Wooding. Try painting St George's Cross in the crater. The council will be out in a flash to fix it. Obviously listening to Talk. This is Talk. Be back.
He has said and done things that have broken the law. And I do believe in forgiveness and repentance. He's done his time. That means that he gets at least legally a clean slate. And I think that means that particularly where he's demonstrated contrition, and he's admitted to all his many faults. It doesn't mean that we can simply throw the baby out with the bathwater with this guy, because he's always acting from a place of emotional integrity.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:23. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock, of course. Cliff in Berkshire says this: if I was on a flight with security guards escorting failed asylum seekers, I think I'd be a little concerned about my safety and that of the plane. Well, yeah, I know. Tim in Taunton says this: Mike, maybe Rachel from Accounts was in charge of counting the crowd on Saturday. Great show. Well, they do seem to need a bit of a new calculator, don't they? And one from Stephen, he says, I think Starmer's hoping for a good state visit, but I really believe Trump is furious with Starmer, the British and European governments, especially after the reactions to Charlie Kirk. Don't be surprised if Trump tips the tables and creates a totally embarrassing moment for Starmer. Stephen Cornwall, he says, personally, I think Starmer will be gone before the budget. Well, I tell you what, the Raptors are out, and that's what it says right here in front of me on David Wooding's column in The Sun today. Keir is a dead man walking. David Wooding, journalist and political commentator, is here with us. David, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
This is quite a bad time to be Keir Starmer, isn't it? I mean, I was saying this morning, imagine he's sort of probably hiding somewhere in Downing Street, hoping nobody finds him until it all kind of passes, because he can't find any mates there anymore.
No, I mean, everybody I've been speaking to in the past week thinks it's all over for Sir Keir now. It's not really a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Right.
I mean, as I say in the article today, he's got so much coming down the track. I mean, he's just had the week from hell with two resignations or sackings within hours of him going out publicly to defend the two people, Angela Rayner, his deputy, and the Ambassador to Washington, Lord Mandelson.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we get the growth figures which show that it's flatlining. That 0% growth during July.
Yeah.
So now he's got all the stuff coming down the track very quickly. There's the Trump's visit tomorrow. Anything could go wrong there. Then it's straight into the party conference where you've got the deputy leadership battle, where people will be having a go at Starmer to try and show that they're of a different mind.
Yeah.
And then you've got the budget a couple of weeks before Christmas, when we're all going to get hammered with tax. But the big crunch for Sir Keir Starmer will be in May, when the local elections, the elections in Scotland, where lots will go to the SNP, Wales, reform coming through on the outside, and of course you've got the mayoral elections. I mean, he's going to be pasted in those, and that's when patience will probably snap.
Yeah, I mean, everyone seems to agree that even if he makes it all the way through until May, if that's a bad result, which is almost certain to be, then that's the end, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But if you listen to the MPs around the bars in Westminster now, they're all sharpening their claws, which is where this raptor idea came from. You know, there's that scene in the Jurassic Park where the two young children are hiding in the stainless steel kitchen and the raptors are searching for them.
Yeah.
That's basically what's happening now in Downing Street. Keir Starmer and his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, have adopted a bunker mentality, and outside, all the MPs, even his loyalists now, are saying, when are we going to get him? How are we going to get him?
But it seems as though, as well, that they've fallen out at some point or other over who knew what and who told who what when they should have done. I mean, surely it's inconceivable, isn't it, that Keir Starmer wasn't told something like that at the beginning of last week?
Well, I mean, one of the criticisms of Keir Starmer is the team he's had around him. I mean, now your viewers may not know this, but lots of backroom staff who we political commentators know, heads of comms and various aides in Number 10, have all been cleared out. And he's had about 3 or 4 lots of people coming in and out of Downing Street because they don't last. He got rid of his first chief of staff, Sue Gray, and now he's taken on Morgan McSweeney, who actually pressured and pushed for Lord Mandelson to be the ambassador. And the big mistake, as you just mentioned, was the Foreign Office presented those damaging emails to Number 10 24 hours before Keir Starmer went into the Commons to defend Mandelson. And, the question is, did Morgan McSweeney not read them? Did he read them and not spot the significance of what they contain? Or did he just not tell the Prime Minister? Or did he give them to the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister ignored them? We don't actually know what's happening.
And any one of those 4 choices, they're all bad. Not one of them. Not one of them's good, is it?
And it shows a dysfunctional Number 10, which is what his problem is.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's have a look at Baroness Smith. She was out and about this morning talking about the Mandelson problem. This is what she said to BBC Breakfast.
There was a lot of information publicly. We knew that there was a relationship. We knew the relationship continued after he had been convicted. The decision was taken in the national...
What's clear is, whilst there was some knowledge about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein at the point at which he was appointed, and he'd apologised for that, the real detail, the real shocking detail about the nature of that relationship became apparent fully apparent last Wednesday afternoon, and the Prime Minister took very quick action at that point to remove him as our ambassador.
So you were Women and Equalities Minister, and you were happy with that appointment?
Well, I'm clearly very, very unhappy with the nature of that relationship that became apparent last week.
Oh dear. I mean, don't you think it might have been wiser for Keir Starmer to have sought that information out before Wednesday afternoon, before he actually said that he had full confidence in the ambassador, which is what he said?
Yeah, well, there was a great cartoon in The Times, I think it was, on Saturday, where it had 3 pictures of Keir Starmer, almost identical. And it said, last week, I have every confidence in Angela Rayner. This week, I have every confidence in Peter Mandelson.
Yeah.
Today, I have every confidence in me. And I think that sums up the situation. Every time he expresses confidence in somebody, within hours, he's forced to do the opposite.
Yeah.
And I think Jacqueline Smith there was probably being a little bit over defensive there, stressing that it only became apparent on Wednesday afternoon. It was apparent on Tuesday.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, with every chance they get to try and wriggle out of it, they all seem to make it worse. You know?
And you know, the other thing is, as over the years, speaking to people who've worked inside Number 10 for different governments, when we have our claws into a story like this, they reveal to us afterwards that it's usually 10 times worse than what we already know.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only scratching the surface of what's going on.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, you saw a little bit of Peter Carr there. I mean, he was basically around at the weekend saying, oh, we didn't know any more than you did. And it's like, well, what's the point of having a government if you don't know any more than the journalists? If the journalists know everything and you, being the government, don't know any more than that, then why are we paying, millions and millions of pounds out to people working in MI5 and the Home Office and the Foreign Office if we don't know anything else?
Well, I was in the newsroom and these events become clear and we jump on them, and within seconds everybody's whipped up and working on it. I don't know why Downing Street doesn't work on the same basis.
I know, it seems extraordinary, doesn't it? So what's your best sort of guess as to who becomes the next deputy leader? Will that be Bridget Phillipson? That's who Keir Starmer wants, isn't it?
Well, that's who he wants, but the mood is such that I wouldn't be surprised if it was Lucy Powell, because Andy Burnham has come out saying that he wants Lucy. The fact that Keir Starmer says he wants Bridget Phillipson, although she ticks a lot of boxes, she's a woman, she's got a good backstory, she's from the north. The problem is Keir Starmer's approved her, which probably gives her the kiss of death.
No. It's amazing how quickly they fall, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. Great column, though, anyway, today. David, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks,
David Wooding there in the Sun today. Raptors have got their claws out for Keir Starmer. He is a dead man walking. That's the Sun saying that, OK? And that means, that's what it means is going to happen. It's coming up to 8:32. Let's get a voice note from Nick on One In, One Out.
Morning, Mike. It's Nick from Loughborough. This one in, one out deal, which we can all see is lunacy, does that mean that for every illegal one we send back to France, they send somebody over here that has been vetted and has leave to remain, and with their leave to remain comes the ability to bring in all their dependents and families? So in all honesty, it's probably one out and 4, 5, 6, 7 in. What a load of nonsense. Is that how it's going to work? Can somebody enlighten me?
Well, I think the original sort of quantification of it was 1 in, 1 out rather, 17 in. Because even the 1 out isn't actually a 1 out, because somebody goes out but then is replaced immediately by somebody else coming in. So it's actually none out and 17 in, or possibly 18 in. Maybe we should get Baroness Smith to explain.
How many will leave this week?
We're not going to be talking about specific numbers or specific timing.
You will if it suits you, though, won't you?
This is the start of the this particular bit of action.
So if you hang on, if you won't talk about numbers, how can anyone know if it's working?
Well, people can already see that the approach that this government is taking is meaning
No, but
that
if you're publishing, the Home Office is publishing how many people are coming in, why won't you tell us how many people are leaving?
Well, because that's one specific route which it's important to get up and running in order to make sure that it works.
So you will tell us in due course how many?
I'm sure at some point in the future it will be possible to see the impact that this is having on the overall numbers of people who are coming here and the increased numbers of people who have already been returned because they don't have a right to be in this country.
We look forward to hearing if it's working or not.
Well, it's clearly not working, is it? Because even if it did work, you're still getting more people in. It's not fewer people, it's more people. So for every one that you send back, you send another one in. So that means that is literally net zero, which would work fine if you weren't continuing to add an extra person. But it's an extra person. I don't know whose calculator they're using. It must be Rachel Reeves, mustn't it? It's got to be. 0344 499 1000. Kate Hoey's coming up in a minute. Adam in Chester says, just wondering when the Daily Star will bring out the lettuce, or is that only for female Conservatives? Well, he should have his own, shouldn't he, Starmer? Maybe a cabbage for him. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 8:37. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock, of course. Julie Hartley-Brewer returns. One here from Deborah, who says, serious question, Mike. Starmer's tenure is in crisis. Burnham's snapping his ankles for his job. Personally, I think Starmer is such a narcissist. Do you think he would rather call a general election than let any of his minions take the limelight? Just a thought. I think all bets are off currently because almost anything is possible. That's from Deborah in Essex. Got a voice note here from Matt.
Mike, Matt in Brighton here. Just a quick note on the Unite the Kingdom march on Saturday. If all of those people were running down the street singing, "We love Keir Starmer, he's amazing, and so are Labour," they've turned this country into such a great place. They would have used complex mapping and digital software to find out exactly how many people were there and come up with a realistic, accurate figure of about 550 to 700,000 people, easily, probably more. But because they were there waving Union Jacks and George's crosses, and everyone thinks Keir Starmer's an absolute turnip, they just make up a really low number and go with 110,000. I mean, that is pathetic. Anyone that's been to a football match, anyone that's been to Wembley when there's 90,000, absolutely minuscule compared to that lot.
Yeah. No question, Matt. Thank you very much indeed for that. Just before we speak to Baroness Kate Hoey, let's get a clip from Trevor Phillips. This went out on Sky yesterday.
The most alarming aspect of the event was just how normal the vast majority of the marchers were. I spent an hour or two amongst them, and my own impression was that they were mostly the sort of people you'd meet in a country pub or in half-time queue for the loo at football or at a concert. There was a sprinkling of black and brown faces, and the event was brought to a close by a gospel group singing Jerusalem. All that must worry the traditional mass parties, Labour and Conservatives, now polling at less than 40% between them.
Yeah, that is a real worry, I think, for not only Keir Starmer, but for the Tories as well. Let's talk to Baroness Kate Hoey, independent peer, former Labour MP, of course, as well. Kate, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Very good to see you. Very interesting times we live in now, don't we? We've got a Prime Minister who's sort of under siege in Downing Street, doesn't seem to have any friends left. Even his own kind of political advisor, Morgan McSweeney, is having a row with him. He doesn't seem to be able to instruct or control his own party, even though he's got a massive majority. And people are already talking about his demise.
Yes, and although a lot of them are talking about it having to wait to next May, you know, a week a day is a very long time in politics, as we all know. Yeah. So who knows what could happen over the next month or so. I mean, I think things are pretty bad because I'm beginning personally to feel quite sorry for some of the people they're sending out to try and defend him. I mean, I felt very sorry for Jackie Smith there because clearly she knew that she was talking, you know, pretty much nonsense about apart from anything else about the migrant issue. Yeah. But I do genuinely think that, you know, when you're getting sometimes quite loyal Labour MPs coming out and talking about things need to be, even last night, I think the MP for Dulwich, who's a very, very loyal Labour MP, was talking about, you know, things need to change, and if they don't change soon, then something has to happen. And when asked what something have to happen, accepted that he would have to go. Yeah. I mean, I think there is a problem that for him now, because this is all happening, even if people wait to next May, then in the meantime, the party is going to be very, very divided, and there's going to be factions all working for different candidates for who might replace them.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? Because there isn't one sort of advantage to being Keir Starmer and a Keir Starmer supporter, in the same way that there's no one big group that's looking to take over. There's seemingly everywhere he looks, there's sort of a stramash of one kind or another going on.
Yes, and of course Angela Rayner going really sort of changed things, because there was a feeling that perhaps she was the person who was likely to want to take over if Keir ever went. But I think now that you know, there will be a lot of others who will be thinking, oh my goodness, I might now have a chance. And that's going to lead to them getting together with supporters, getting things organised, not quite getting their telephones into a house to start lobbying, as we saw when Michael Portillo was standing for leader way back in the Tories. And then, of course, the difference is Labour has a much more difficult system to get rid of a Prime Minister than the Tories have. And they're much more likely to be just that wee bit more loyal and worried about it than the Tories seem to be, because and that's again. But all these things will just add up to more and more people thinking, look, something has to change and he's got to go.
Because, the sort of the final straw would appear to have been the way that the whole Mandelson situation was handled. And, I mean, it was really appalling. When you look at now what we're expected to believe is that the Foreign Office gave information to Downing Street in one way, shape or form, whether they gave it to Morgan McSweeney or whether they gave it to Keir Starmer. He either wasn't aware of it or didn't, or chose to ignore it as late as Wednesday, when he went up to Prime Minister questions and said that he had full confidence in him. He didn't just say, we'll have an investigation. He said, I've got full confidence in him.
Yeah, I think that is the real question. What happened to that? We know that the Foreign Office definitely had all the Bloomberg emails on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
How on earth did that not get passed on? I mean, it sounds impossible that it didn't get passed on unless he's got some very, very, very big enemies in the Foreign Office. So I think it's much more likely that it was passed on to Downing Street, and they still felt, and the people around him gave him the advice that, oh no, we can still hang on, because clearly there are people in Downing Street who wanted Mandelson to get the job and who wanted him to stay in the job.
And Morgan McSweeney was chief amongst those, because he used to work with Mandelson back in the Blair days, right? And so this is a kind of, this is when people look at the internal workings of some of these political parties, and it's a bit like the mafia, And it's almost like, you've got these relationships which go through different levels of government, and where somebody gets paid back for something he did 15 years ago.
Yes, and there seem to be, Prime Ministers seem to get people around them who are more interested in perhaps themselves than in the Prime Minister. And I don't understand why Prime Ministers, I mean, it is the most important job in the country. It's got the most power in the country. And Prime Ministers just seem to, or some Prime Ministers just seem to almost, sink into the hands of people around them who have different motives. I mean, perhaps Keir Starmer does really need to look at who's around him, but I think it's too late. I mean, he's got a team there now who he has changed so many times that I think, again, it would just look like he's completely lost control.
Yeah. I mean, there comes a moment, and I'm sure you've seen many of these moments, Kate, in your various different roles in your career. There comes a moment when there's just nothing that anybody can do to save someone, isn't it?
I think that's right. I mean, they are all, a way that the Prime Ministers always say, we've got full confidence, and then a day later change their mind. Of course, with the Prime Minister, unless he decides himself he's got no confidence in himself, it's going to have to come from other people. And I just feel now that things have gone on so long. It's not just been the Mandelson issue. We've seen other issues where he's changed his mind, and more he comes across as someone who is a lawyer, perhaps a very good lawyer, but who hasn't got that sort of emotional kind of link to people. He seems to have no
it's emotional intelligence,
of really talking to people in a way that makes them feel that he understands what they're thinking.
Yeah, I don't even think he's a very good lawyer, to be honest, because, I mean, I know a lot of lawyers, and most of them are much better at being in the public eye than he is, and he's meant to be in the public eye,
Well, he doesn't seem to enjoy in any sense being in the public eye. I mean, we've hardly seen him in the last few days at all.
No.
And you can't have a Prime Minister who shies away from the big issues to talk to the public. The public want to know that he knows how angry they feel. And I mean, he should be reacting to that huge march yesterday, because if that didn't tell him that there was something very, very wrong about what's happening in his government, then, nothing will.
But what he's reacted to it is the wrong reaction. He's reacted that, he won't have people having a fight with the police. It was 25 arrests out of however many hundreds of thousands of people that were there, with a tiny proportion of the number of arrests at Notting Hill Carnival, about which he said nothing.
Yes, and of course we saw very, very many more arrests at the Notting Hill Carnival. We saw very, very many more arrests over the Palestine Action demonstrations when he didn't come out and condemn that. Again, that huge number that was there, let's not forget that there are lots of thousands and thousands more who didn't go on it, who couldn't go on it, who felt perhaps that wasn't their way of protesting. But they are going to be rather horrified by the fact that he's come out so strongly against it. He should have been coming out and saying, look, I recognise the anger, I recognise the frustration. Of course we don't want police to be attacked. I mean, that's never acceptable. But I'm listening now and I realise that we have messed up in a big way.
Yeah. That's what he should do, but of course he won't. But Kate,
no,
great to speak
he
to
won't.
Kate Hoey, Baroness Kate Hoey, thank you very much indeed. Independent peer, ex-Labour MP, of course. Let's get a voice note from Katie on the march.
Morning, Mike. Katie from Hampshire. We were there on Saturday and there were millions of us. It was so friendly and kind. And the most British thing I've ever heard, because we were all squished up together, was how many times I heard the word sorry. When people were trying to get through the crowd, it was sorry, no, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, no, we're all sorry, we're sorry, sorry. I wish that I took a clip of all of the amount of times I heard the word sorry.
It's funny, isn't it? It's one of the great British things. When somebody bumps into you, you're apologising to them. It's mad, completely mad. Keir Starmer has put out his first tweet of the day, though, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming up to 8:48, and this is it. Is it about the march? Is it about his relationship with Morgan McSweeney? Is it about Peter Mandelson and how sorry he is? No. It's about today, US and UK companies have made major new commitments to turbocharge nuclear power in this country, getting your energy bills down in the long term and delivering thousands of jobs. I mean, you might as well have a sort of stuffed dummy there, just randomly picking things out of AI and asking Grok to come up with something to say. What shall I say now? Oh, I don't know, say something about nuclear power. That'll keep them occupied for the next couple of minutes. What an absolute plank. This is Talk.
Legally a clean slate, and I think that means that particularly where he's demonstrated contrition, and he's admitted to all his many faults, it doesn't mean that we can simply throw the baby out with the bathwater with this guy, because he's always acting from a place of emotional integrity.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 8:52. I'm Mike Graham. Morning, Mike says Margaret in Birmingham. Morgan McSweeney will be thrown under the bus by Starmer, gone by Friday. Then Morgan will team up with Mandelson. That's worth waiting for. 5, 4, 3. You know the rest. Yay! Yeah, that's going to get very interesting indeed. And there's already a lot of murmurings. We'll play you some coming up in the next hour inside the Labour government of what Mandelson is planning to do to Starmer. It won't be nice. I promise you that. He's the Prince of Darkness, after all. Let's now, though, go to Jack Ross, a sports reporter of The Sun, because it's time for 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
And, of course, very much the dominant story this morning. Rest in peace, champ. Liam Gallagher posted last night about the sad death of Ricky, the hitman Hatton, found dead at his home, aged just 46. The Sun, with some brilliant coverage. Because, of course, it coincided with the Manchester derby, Manchester City being Ricky's big team. And that's for you, Ricky, as well, it says on the front page from Pep Guardiola. Manchester City 3, Man United 0. Jack, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Yeah, it's an incredibly sad day for Manchester and for the whole of sport, isn't it? And I think he was such a big part of Manchester City, and as always with football, their tribute was bang on and, you know, incredibly quickly turned around and very poignant. But he's someone that means so much to both sides of Manchester, and I think that says so much about his character. He was a great boxer, probably not one of the all-time greats in terms of just the sport, but the reason so many people have so much love for him, I think, is his character away from the ring more than in it. There's a fantastic piece by Dave Kidd in today's paper about, you know, how adored he was by the city of Manchester, by both halves of Manchester, and a fantastic obituary from Wally Downs as well. And there's a fantastic quote from Ricky in there that says, "I don't want a pat on the back for being normal or having a photo with someone." And I think that's why everyone loved him so much. Yeah. He didn't, you know, chase after fame like so many people.
No, indeed. He was in here just a couple of years ago. I think he had a book coming out, and he was brilliant. And he was organising some charity boxing match or something like that. And he was just a very relatable, very, very nice, ordinary guy. And I mean, a lot of people saying some lovely things about him this morning, including Liam Gallagher from Oasis, obviously, but also Amir Khan paying tributes to him. I mean, there's not many sporting stars that can make the front page and the back page at the same time.
No, absolutely not. And I think that shows the magnitude of his character. And like you said, so many people from across boxing, Manny Pacquiao as well, one of his great foes back in the day, speaking about him, and footballers and golfers and people across all different sports who looked up to him, idolised him, and always seemed to come away with a fantastic impression of him. And I think that will be his lasting legacy as well.
Absolutely. Great coverage by The Sun this morning as well. Thanks very much. Jack Rosser, really appreciate it. Sports reporter at The Sun. That's 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Let's talk now to Harry Wilkinson, Head of Policy at the Global Warming Foundation, because there's a couple of stories about Sadiq Khan doing the rounds this morning. One of them is about the front page of the Daily Express, in which the question is, Khan must quit over grooming failure. This is a whistleblower revealing the horrific extent of the number of rape gangs in the capital city of this country. But also another story in which it's revealed that Sadiq Khan has had so many air miles, he's racked up so much air miles flying around the world that he could have gone to the moon and back, believe it or not. Let's have a listen to what Harry's got to say. Harry, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's always nice to see a bit of green hypocrisy, isn't it, on a Monday morning? You can probably guarantee that almost everybody who's involved in the climate business has done the same thing. I mean, Ed Miliband's the same. You've had all sorts of climate conferences that these people go to. I think he's about to go to the one in Brazil. And Sadiq Khan's just as bad.
Well, it's just something that we expect with the green movement, unfortunately. And it highlights the actual class dynamic that we see when it comes to net zero. These people just don't think this will ever apply to them. They carry on their lives completely as normal. Ed Miliband, we found out, didn't actually have a heat pump the other day, just as he brings about legislation to force people to use heat pumps. And of course, Sadiq Khan now has been found taking all these flights. He reminiscent of Taylor Swift in terms of the number of flights that he's taking. These are utterly excessive, these flights. And of course, you know, he's got a job to do here in London. We have many problems, and this unfortunate story about grooming gangs is just one of them.
Right.
You know, Khan should be right here in London dealing with the problems ordinary Londoners face.
Yeah, like the tube strike, for example, that paralysed the whole city for the entire week last week.
That's right. And, you know, he's attended various conferences. He's been a part of various global alliances on clean cities, for example. All of these international events seem to provide a much more alluring activity, Khan, than actually it's difficult. You know, London's challenges are difficult sometimes, but that is the job of mayor. He's got to grapple with these difficult challenges. He's got to grapple with the unions that are bringing our city to a halt. But he just wants to get the, you know, indulgence and the praise that he gets from this international class. You know, those people don't seem to be asking him the same difficult questions as perhaps he gets asked whether he's in City Hall or he's speaking to journalists here in the city. So you can see why it's so tempting for him to engage in these friendly audiences overseas compared to actually tough, challenging audiences here in the UK.
Yeah, well, he doesn't like being asked questions in Mayor's questions, does he? I mean, according to this investigation, he's flown more than 73,000 miles on his own, but when you add in the number of staff he takes with him, that's 473,000 miles, producing an estimated 43.6 tonnes of carbon dioxide, roughly equivalent to flying 19 times around the Earth's equator. Incredible.
I mean, there is a need, I think, sometimes for the mayor to use flights. He does have to represent London overseas. So, you know, that will be necessary sometimes. Let's make that clear. But I think the amount of flying that we've seen from this particular mayor goes above and beyond what could be reasonably regarded as necessary. And, you know, my message to him would be, you know, deal with the problems that you are causing here in London. We've seen with ULEZ a complete belligerence about the impact that has, particularly on vulnerable people, to get around. We've seen low traffic neighbourhoods plague London, and there's been some quite high profile court cases, ordinary residents fighting the impact that these are having on their lives. Grapple with these problems, Mayor, and stop jet-setting around the world while lecturing people about emissions.
Quite. And then finally, meanwhile, Keir Starmer's put out a tweet this morning saying that the US and the UK have made major new commitments to turbocharge nuclear power in this country, which he says is going to lead to loads and loads of new jobs, hundreds of new jobs, but it doesn't say when.
Well, nuclear has always taken a long time to develop, but that's a fault of the regulatory regime that we have here in the UK. Look at South Korea, for example, and they have nuclear power stations that are built on time and for vastly less money than it costs to build nuclear here in the UK. Nuclear is a fantastic technology. It is clean, it's safe, and it's reliable. The key thing that, you know, wind and solar are lacking. So I certainly welcome a new nuclear program. But if he's serious about it, he's got to change the regulatory environment so that these projects aren't just caught up in years and years of delays, massive cost overshoots. You know, those are a product of the laws that we have in this country. We have to change them.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you. Harry Wilkinson there, Head of Policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation. Coming up in the next hour, Isabel Oakeshot's going to be joining us. We've got loads more going on as well. Of course, Harry Cole is going to be visiting us. He's got a new position over in the United States of America, but he's back to do Harry Cole Saves the West right here in London. I mean, it was his interview with Peter Mandelson that was the beginning of the end of Peter Mandelson last week. So I wonder what he's got for us this week. This is Morning Glory. More after this.
I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. Yeah. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so we reach that level in 2027.
The answer from European capitals has been as resounding as it is clear. We are in an era of rearmament to respond to the short-term urgency to act and to support Ukraine, but also to address the long-term need to take on more responsibility for our own European security.
On Saturday, we also agreed a new £2.2 billion loan for Ukraine, backed not by the British taxpayer, but by the profits from frozen Russian assets. It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know. I need to know.
He is a great gentleman. A great, great gentleman. He said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time, and he better not be right. Well, I just think he should be more appreciative, because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us, because as you know, that's right there, that's the border.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to very nearly 5 minutes past 9, the final hour of the show. It's Monday, of course, September the 15th, midway through the month of September, going into conference season. There's a recess in Parliament right now, but there's a crisis in Downing Street. Keir Starmer this morning on the front page is scrambling around. Apparently, there's a message to try and save Keir Starmer's premiership. That's how bad things have got. And the word out on the street is that basically officials did know details of Lord Mandelson's Epstein emails at the beginning of the week, last week, but insist the Prime Minister was left in the dark. So there's a couple of problems here. One, who was it that decided to withhold information from the Prime Minister? If indeed it was withheld, and why did he not ask for it to be seen before he went out on Wednesday at Prime Minister's Questions and completely and utterly offered his full support? Not just we'll see what's going on here, but his full support for Lord Mandelson, the ambassador from the UK to the USA. It was only 24 hours later that he was fired. And, of course, now, apparently, Mandelson's going around telling everybody that he's going to take Starmer down with him. He's not very happy about it, it would turn out. Meanwhile, you've still got a load of people fighting like rats in a sack, trying to become the new deputy leader of the Labour Party. One of them, of course, is Bridget Phillipson, and she's been out and about moaning and groaning about reform. Here's what Darren has to say.
Darren from Suffolk, very windy Suffolk out with the dog this morning. What is it with Labour? They're obsessed with reform. 19 out of 34 tweets at the beginning of September mentioned reform. They've got nearly 4 years to govern before they've got to get involved in a general election. All we ever hear is far right this, far right that. It's ridiculous. They are turning out to be the best marketing weapon for reform. And this is because none of them have ever been in business. If they worked for me and my marketing team, I'd sack them for mentioning the competition. Have a lovely day, Mike.
Darren, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, there's an absolute obsession, isn't there, going on in the Labour government? I mean, they don't seem to care about the Conservatives anymore. They just care about reform. It's all they talk about. 0344 499 1000. Also today on the front pages, other stories. Obviously, a lot of tributes to the hitman Hatton. Ricky Hatton died at the weekend, aged just 46. A lot of tears for him in Manchester in particular. Racist star Liam Gallagher. Rest in peace, champ. Live forever. That's the front page of The Sun. Also, of course, the new one in, one out scheme, which isn't really one in, one out at all, is supposed to be getting underway possibly as early as today. First migrants going to be sent back to France on commercial flights, apparently accompanied by one person per migrant. So whenever you're going to sit down next to somebody on a plane, you might want to check exactly where they're going or exactly who they're with, because you might find that you're sitting next to a migrant who might be illegal. I don't know if people would like that. And meanwhile, they're going to bring another one back. So it's not exactly one in, one out, is it? It's actually loads in and none out. And changing one sort of screwball for another, if you like. I don't understand it. 7 minutes past 9, 0344 499 1000. Alex Burkhardt is here, Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. Isabel Oakeshott, Harry Cole from The Sun as well. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Well, we find ourselves in the middle of yet another political crisis. So let's check in with Westminster. There's no actual Parliament at the moment. It's in recess, so there's no Prime Minister's questions. We've got Kemi Badenoch demanding that Keir Starmer come to Parliament and actually explain himself as to how it's possible that this whole mess with Peter Mandelson got to where it was. She says in a tweet, if the Prime Minister really believes in accountability, he would stop hiding, face Parliament, publish the Mandelson-Epstein files and tell the truth about what he and his Chief of Staff knew and when. No more excuses, she says. Alex, very good morning to you.
Morning, thanks.
Not at all. It doesn't look as though Kemi Badenoch's wish is going to be carried out by Keir Starmer. I don't think there's much chance of him appearing in Parliament this morning, is there?
But
I think
he
we
needs
lost
to
it
come
there.
to the House and explain himself.
We'll come back. Are we there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I
can hear you.
Yeah, go on, carry on.
Yeah. No, I think that Keir Starmer is in hiding over this subject, and well might he be, because something has gone very badly wrong. The government needs to come entirely clean on what it knew last week when Starmer came to the House so fully. As you pointed out, Mike, we now know that Number 10 was well aware that there was this huge cache of email dug up that detailed the intimacy of Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile and sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. But I think there's also major questions now about what the government knew when Mandelson was appointed last year, and that we have very good security and vetting in this country. We've got very good security services. I think it's very unlikely they wouldn't have picked up relationship. And if that's the case, it means either someone kept that information from the Prime Minister, which would be incredibly serious, and the suspicion would fall on Morgan McSweeney, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, who we know was pushing Mandelson for this appointment, or the Prime Minister knew all along and he made the appointment anyway. The truth is, everybody now agrees this appointment shouldn't have been made, but no one is taking responsibility. And it's time for someone to take responsibility for what's happened.
And it seems extraordinary, does it not, that on as recently as Wednesday of last week, Keir Starmer was not just offering, an investigation into what had happened. He was basically saying that he still had full confidence in Lord Mandelson on Wednesday. We're having a bit of trouble with the connection. I think we'll come back to you, Alex. Thanks very much indeed. Let's talk to Isabel Oakeshott instead, who I'm sure has got a much better signal than that. Isabel, very good morning to you.
I'm hoping so, yeah. Good morning.
This is a hell of a mess, isn't it?
It is a complete mess. I mean, it's hard to imagine a worse backdrop for the Labour Party going into their party conference at the end of this month. I mean, it is going to be an absolute bloodbath, that conference.
Yeah.
Kicks off in 2 weeks' time, and it's going to be basically a sort of beauty parade for those who want to take over from Starmer, with the media pouncing on every comment on the fringe or off the main stage or even on the main stage of those who are trying to set out their stall. I mean, absolutely delicious for us political reporters, but a disaster for Downing Street.
Right. And worse than that, he's now got a very upset and angry Lord Mandelson roaming around Westminster, vowing to take him out sort of mafia style and basically ruin him. And he says, if I'm going to go down, he's going to come down with me. And already lots of Labour MPs are expecting some really interesting pieces of information, shall we say, to be floated into the public domain.
I mean, absolute get your popcorn out time, isn't it? The last person on earth anyone would want to have coming for them is Peter Mandelson, because my God, he's going to know a few unsavoury things, isn't he? It's very clear that Starmer can't go on. You know, people are saying he can't go on to the next election. I mean, the notion that he can survive another year seems to be pretty fanciful to me. At this rate, I'm not even sure he can survive until Christmas.
I know.
Until what is expected to be a very, very bloody set of local government elections and Welsh elections in next spring. I mean, it really looks terminato for him.
Yeah, it does indeed. I like that word. Diane Abbott was on GMB this morning. Have a look at what she had to say.
Peter Mandelson apparently is very bitter and twisted. He thinks the Prime Minister has failed him. And a bitter and twisted Peter Mandelson, who knows stuff, is not a Peter Mandelson you want out there.
I mean, you know, there are times when she's been around a long time and you have to listen to what she has to say.
Well, that is true. Although, you know, for Peter Mandelson to be sort of venting his spleen at Keir Starmer feels a bit rich, really. I mean, he was given the chance of a lifetime by Keir Starmer in a way. You know, I can't imagine anyone else moronic enough to bring him back a third time after 2 cabinet resignations.
Yeah.
Yet Keir Starmer let him try to be third time lucky, let him try to demonstrate that he was capable of overturning the habit of a professional lifetime and not actually screwing things up and not creating some disastrous scandal for the government. You know, Keir Starmer, to give him his due, put his faith in Peter Mandelson. It was a daft thing to do.
Yeah.
For Mandelson now to sort of turn that on Starmer, I mean, frankly, he should shuffle off, but it's not going to happen, is it?
No, because that's not his way, is it? And that's the point, you know, because I was saying to Kate Hoey earlier, the way that some of the Blairites operate is that they've been in the background, but they've been very much pulling a lot of strings, I think, since about 10 years ago or so, preparing Starmer to be the next guy. And, you know, the reason Mandelson is so matey with Morgan McSweeney is because they worked together under Blair, you know, and it's this sort of, it is a bit like the Cosa Nostra.
Yeah, I mean, it's all interconnected. You know, there was some very useful and interesting coverage over the weekend sort of showing this spider's web of where all the relationships lie, and it does all lead back to those Labour grandees that still think that they can, whilst operating in the shadows, still think that they control power in Downing Street, and up to a point they have done, but it hasn't led the country anywhere good. I mean, the whole thing is a total catastrophe, and I think the protest over the weekend is an insight into just the scale of frustration amongst so many ordinary voters. I mean, we're showing now aerial footage of that. Sorry, I mean, if that is 110,000 people, you know, I'm a piece of granary bread. I mean, this is... let's put that figure into context. If that's 110,000 people, that's only a little over double the number of Channel migrants that have come over since Keir Starmer. Is that an illustration you would like? Is that just over double the number of Channel migrants?
It's a very good point. I mean, people have said to me, and I think it's a very good analogy for most people to think about, 110,000 people is about how many people get into Wembley Stadium. So if you've ever been to Wembley Stadium for any event, you can see the numbers coming out, and that is a lot bigger than that. That's a minimum 5 times bigger.
Well, I haven't had the pleasure of going to Wembley Stadium, so I'm going to stick with my Channel migrant numbers and I'd like to ask Downing Street if they accept that the scale of the turnout was only double the number of migrants who've come across the Channel since they've been in power, and let's see if they say yes to that one. It's intriguing as to why there is such a determined effort to underplay this turnout, you know, taking us all for fools. We can all clearly see that that is far more than they're suggesting. I think Trevor Phillips's monologue on Sky yesterday, which I think Sky for some reason has deleted, sort of in a way sums it up. I mean, it was kind of a pompous, very surprising and alarming that these are ordinary people. Yes, ordinary people have had enough. They're absolutely fed up. And they're not all far right or racist or abusing the police or any of that. And, as your last contributor was saying, what a great advertisement it is. The guy that left the voice note, stop advertising the opposition.
I know.
Every time they talk about far right, racist, all of that, it just galvanises the support for other parties.
Well, that's it. And I mean, Trevor Phillips has written a piece in the Times today saying, dismiss Unite the Kingdom March at your peril. So I think while he was probably perhaps taken aback, at least he seems to be seeing it for what it is, which is something pretty significant. I think we've got his clip, actually. Let's have a look.
The most alarming aspect of the event was just how normal the vast majority of the marches were. I spent an hour or two amongst them, and my own impression was that they were mostly the sort of people you'd meet in a country pub or in half-time queue for the loo at football or at a concert. There was a sprinkling of black and brown faces, and the event was brought to a close by a gospel group singing Jerusalem. All that must worry the traditional mass parties, Labour and Conservatives, now polling at less than 40% between them.
I mean, they're in a bad place, aren't they, both of them?
Really very, very bad place. And although that all sounds a bit pompous, the astonishment that he clearly has that the people who turned out weren't all, having horns coming out of their head and foaming at the mouth and ready to attack anybody who confronted them. I think Trevor Phillips does, in a sense, do everybody a favour by giving his highfalutin view and confirmation, as it were, that most of these were just ordinary voters who are absolutely sick, fed up, and need some way of demonstrating their anger. And I wasn't there, but by and large, compared to, for example, the Notting Hill so-called carnival, actually it was pretty peaceful.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, that's the other thing is that, are we supposed to be thinking now that the new Shabana Mahmood plan of one in, one out, put a migrant on an Air France plane, send them off to France, bring back somebody different, is going to placate them? No.
Well, I was trying to explain this scheme to somebody not from the UK, and as I was trying to explain the one in, one out thing, I just kind of started laughing because it is so laughable. If you try to actually set this out, you're just left thinking, how does that make anything any better? And we all know anyway that it's not one in, one out, as you said, one out, 17 in, or whatever it may be. Also, I would question this information that it's supposedly only one guard per deportee. It'll be way more than that in terms of personnel. I mean, the cost of these deportations, something I happen to know a fair bit about. The amount of personnel that's involved in every deportation is quite astonishing. I mean, they will have, undoubtedly, they'll have doctors on duty on those planes. They will literally be taking over medics to accompany those deportees. I mean, the rest of us struggle to get any access to a doctor, but if you're being sent back from whence you came, you can be assured that you're going to be medically looked after.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. Nothing could be further from the truth. Isabel, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Isabel Oakeshott there, Talks International editor, on the ludicrous nature of whatever it is they think they're going to be doing. But the first migrant supposedly set for return to France on commercial flights, possibly as early as today. But I'm not really buying it, are you? Coming up, Harry Cole is here, editor-at-large at The Sun, of course. He's back on a mission to Britain to try and check out how we're doing. Donald Trump, of course, is going to be here from Wednesday. Harry, based in America now, will give us the lowdown on what he's found out. But it was his big interview with Peter Mandelson last week that kind of set the whole ball rolling on the Mandelson exit scenario. So we'll find out what he's got for us this week. There's a talk.
a clean slate, and I think that means that particularly where he's demonstrated contrition, and he's admitted to all his many faults, it doesn't mean that we can simply throw the baby out with the bathwater with this guy, because he's always acting from a place of emotional integrity.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 24 minutes past 9. I'm Mike Graham, and I'm here, of course, until 10 o'clock. Delighted to say, joined by a very special guest, Mr. Harry Cole, from The Sun. How are you? Nice to see you.
Very well, thanks.
Back for the first time since your trip to the US of A. Editor-at-Large at The Sun, of course. I mean, I've just been saying, you know, quite a sort of intro to your new show, Harry Cole Saves the West. You managed to get rid of Peter Mandelson.
Well, I think Peter Mandelson was in a bit of a tailspin anyway, but he certainly tried to come out swinging last week on the show. It didn't help.
No.
But he is a sort of master of those sort of
he is.
spin.
But it was a great scoop to get, though.
Well, it was. I tell you what, it was. I don't need to tell you how these things work sometimes, but the stressful 2 hours ahead of it.
Yeah.
Well, we just didn't know whether he was going to show up.
Right.
So I was sitting there in the studio waiting for him to come.
Yeah.
He was driving around the block, I suspect, waiting to see the front pages in London drop
Right.
to see how bad it was.
Right.
And then he came out grovelling, but not grovelling enough.
Not grovelling enough.
Exactly.
And now, of course, after having been given the full support of the Prime Minister just last Wednesday, you then, another 24 hours later, he's gone.
Well, yeah, you don't. That's the last thing you want.
I know.
Is PM to say you got his full support in you.
Oh, I know.
Look, I think there's the problem that the Prime Minister's got is that everyone kind of knew this stuff. And yes, there were some new emails, and yes, there were some new developments, but no one really thought that Peter Mandelson had cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein after he was convicted. He was still staying with him when he was business minister. This was all known. And it seems to me that it was all known, but then ignored for political expediency.
Yeah.
And that means it comes down to the Prime Minister's judgment. So I think he's going to have a bit of a rough week, because no one's disputing that Peter Mandelson was doing a good job. The one thing you do as British ambassador, you've got to get right up there in the White House, to put it politely.
Yeah. And he was very much in the background, wasn't he? Whenever Starmer was in the Oval Office, he was standing there.
And he built a good relationship with Trump. Trump described him as the ambassador from Central Casting. Right. It was all very jolly, very friendly. Obviously, the state visit this week is a massive moment of maximum danger for the special relationship, for Starmer's premiership, general relations. And to lose your ambassador on the eve of that, I mean, it's amazing. Like, the last couple of weeks, you know, watching it from afar gives you a sort of clarity in a way. I was not necessarily in the reads as I used to be down in Westminster, but stepping back at the big picture, 14 months to be in this situation where you lose your deputy, your top diplomat, there's questions over whether you can leave your chief of staff. It makes sort of Boris Johnson's administration look like,
well,
I don't know what. You know,
I came on this morning at 6 o'clock and I thought, you know, imagine waking up in Downing Street this morning with Keir Starmer. You're sort of hiding in all the corners, hoping that you don't meet anyone who doesn't like you, because nobody likes him. He literally hasn't got anybody supporting him.
The fundamental gamble that Keir Starmer made is that he didn't want to, you know, he's not a particularly political big beast. He's not really of any one faction of the Labour Party or the other. He's trying to be all things to all people. And I think he made a fatal misstep early on, that he believed that actually just boring, technocratic, loyally legalistic leadership is what the country was crying out for. Just because they were naffed off with the Tories and they didn't quite like, you know, they were sick of all that nonsense, which we can go into again another day, doesn't necessarily mean that what they were ready for is basically government by civil service. And that's what they got with Starmer, and that's why you've seen reform on the march. That's why you've seen Nigel Farage on the march. Weirdly, that's why, you know, people talked about Angela Rayner being human, having a bit of you know, credibility in terms of talking to normal voters, being a good communicator, because what they've got is, you know, fundamentally very boring government, but what he was promising is competence. He said, I'll be boring but I'll be competent. What we've got is boring and incompetent. And that's fatal. No one's talking about policy, no one's even talking about the budget, no one's talking about the tech trade deals and nuclear deals that they want to sign this week, no one's talking about the political direction of this government. All they're talking about is personalities and disasters. And he can only spend so long. Ask Boris Johnson, ask Rishi Sunak, ask Liz Truss. There's only so long you can go where the focus is all on numero uno rather than what the rest of the government is doing. And so far, for the last, 3 weeks, all it's been since Phase 2's reset.
Well, Phase 2 was a disaster.
It was Godfather Part 2 more. Like,
I mean, I'm assuming we're in Phase 3 now. I think they just scrubbed Phase 2. Just like, no.
It's that sort of awkward second album that everyone forgets.
That's it.
You'll come back with a third if you survive.
But this is the thing, but also there's been a credibility gap, and I think a lot of people have seen that Keir Starmer, unfortunately, doesn't do what he says, and he comes out with a lot of spin. I mean, his social media account is laughable, and we make fun of it every day, because he'll just come out with something which is entirely irrelevant. While there's this whole maelstrom of madness going on around him, and he'll start talking about these little small nuclear, devices that are going to build everywhere.
All very helpful, but then you've got his party, which is basically feral. He's got a 170% majority that he can't control. Once he surrendered on those benefit clampdowns a few months ago, that was almost surrendering his leadership to the party. And this is the inevitable conclusion of that. And I have to say, though, if Andy Burnham is the answer to the question, you've got to have a long look at the question.
You have got to have a long look at the question. I keep saying it's not good enough just to look as if you're a member of New Order, and to speak with a northern accent.
People have very short memories who cannot remember
he wasn't any
how
good.
bad Andy Burnham's leadership campaigns were. And how, absolutely, he's done well. I think he should. He's done well to get the job he's got. And the idea that he's going to risk all of that to come back and try and fight reform in a northern by-election, which he may not win. So I mean, it's a hell of a gamble for him. We'll see. That's real Game of Thrones. That's real roll the dice stuff, isn't it? But if you look at some of the polling and some of those seats that could become available in the northwest, there are no ways of shooing.
No.
There are no safe Labour seats.
No.
There are no safe Tory seats.
No.
Politics has been upended. Look at the scenes we saw on the streets of London just,
this is the thing.
48 hours ago.
And he, again, Starmer's kind of reaction to that was sort of wrong, fundamentally wrong. People were on, I had Kate Hoey on today saying, he should have said, look, I'm listening to you, I can see that you're troubled. What you shouldn't be doing is accuse them all of being far-right sort of nutters who are trying to take on the police.
Look, as 125,000, 150,000, whatever you want to call it, people on the streets, a couple of troublemakers clashing with the far left. Fine.
Move on.
If you look at Trevor Phillips' piece in the Times this morning, which I think you've just been talking about earlier, was actually no. Yeah, you can focus on that. If the BBC and the government want to focus on, a sliver of this protest, fine. But ignore the rest of it at your peril, because these are just normal people fed up, sick to the back teeth. It was amazing. I drove up from Heathrow last night. The flags are up across the M25. There's been a real... I've only been away 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks. There's been a real vibe shift.
It has. It's moved.
And you can feel it.
Yeah. I mean, the Reform Conference as well was the same. Met loads of
I heard you
people.
were on the stage.
I was, apparently. Yeah. I mean, they didn't really tell me it was going to be like that. It was bizarre. I couldn't move.
Were you mocked?
I was literally...
It
was literally like a rock star.
You'd love to see it.
It was mad. But I said, everybody you met, you were like, well, I'm never voting Tory again. Some of them, I'm never voting Labour again. They're never going back. They're lost forever. As long as they're happy with what Reform are doing, they'll just keep voting for them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think people are sort of, the Labour Party strategists and Tory strategists and pollsters and broadcasters, not of this august network, are looking at, we'll just attack them on this, and then people will come back, attack them on that. People don't care.
No.
People aren't listening.
No, I mean, we've got Bridget Phillipson today vowing to take on Reform. It's like...
What with?
Well, good luck, sweetie. Sorry, I know we can't call people that, but, it's just ridiculous. But you've got Harry Cole Saves the West now. New show, broadcast live tonight.
Tonight, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Talk.
Yeah.
Watch on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. Harry Cole Saves the West.
Yeah.
Well, look,
it's a great title, by the way. Are you going to claim it?
Well, I mean, it's go big or go home, right? We've got a big task on our hand. But no, seriously. But joking aside, what we're looking at is, look, what is America getting right? What is Trump getting right? Where is the strip out the hysteria? What is Europe getting right? What can America and Europe do together? What is Europe getting wrong? What is Britain getting wrong? How can we save things before it's too late?
Yeah.
Look at the absolutely massive outpouring across both sides of the pond of people, ordinary people who see the death of Charlie Kirk and just think, we are reaching a turning point in our society. Something has to give. Stop the West. I want to go off.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be talking about these massive issues. But we're doing it in our usual irreverent style.
Indeed.
We'll have some fun. We'll have some interviews. We've got a great interview coming up tonight. So 10 o'clock, tune in.
Excellent stuff. And what about the Trump visit? Because obviously that's going to be massive on Wednesday. They're already building walls in Windsor, and they're putting up all sorts of drone defences.
Look at the security threat to Charlie Kirk was not the president; he was an activist. We saw two attempts on Trump's life last year. Actually, what you notice really in America is quite how he's a very accessible president. Yeah, but he's very accessible within an iron. Sure. He makes himself very accessible to the media.
He's always working, isn't he?
He's a machine. But I think we will see. I mean, especially overseas, especially in light of the tragic incident last week, especially in light of the sort of tense global situation with Iran, with Russia. There's a lot of people that don't like Donald Trump. Right. So I think we'll see him within that ring of steel. So Wednesday is going to be a very strange day because it's going to have the sort of pomp and circumstance of a state visit, but all done within the walls of Windsor Castle.
Yeah.
And then he's off to Chequers.
That's probably sensible as well, because you've got a lot of idiots out there on the left who want to try and stop Trump.
There's a lot of wackos around, but I have to say, if you compare the madness of the first state visit, what was it, back in 2017, 2019? There were all the pink-haired, blue-haired libs on the streets. They'll be out again, but nowhere near in the way it was before. I think he won the election fair and square this time. Even his fiercest critics say exactly what you just said there. Was like, the guy's got some serious energy. He's out and about a lot. And, in the first couple of weeks of his administration, he did more press conferences and more media airtime than Biden did in 4 years. Yeah, right. So, I mean, you're not sure of this guy. This is not a guy running away and hiding. No. This is, it's really fascinating. And actually, as a British journalist being over there for 6 or 7 weeks now, the amount of access you get to the administration, to the president, to his cabinet, compared to the stage-managed nonsense here, where Keir Starmer reads out a list of selected,
I used to be amazed when I worked
8
there.
questions.
Yeah.
But Trump will do it. He'll walk out on his way to his helicopter and do an impromptu 40-minute standby, and he makes sure every single person gets a question, be you Japanese TV or whether you're whether you're one of the one of the US networks.
But it's a great country for that kind of people talk about freedom of the press. I mean, they really have it there. I remember I used to a long time ago, probably before you were born, I'd ring up the FBI somewhere in Miami, and I'd go, I understand you're looking at this guy, and they'd be like, what do you need on it? And they just send you everything, even if they hadn't been charged yet. And it's
the fundamental transparency that we just don't have in this country. I remember in one of the awful incidents, I think it might have been the Manchester bombing, where obviously intelligence was shared with the United States about that, and the FBI, exactly as you say, just published it. And so we were finding out what was happening in Manchester from the New York Times. It's bizarre. It's very, very different. But no, look, that's what the point of the show. We're going to lift the lid on both of that. Yeah. What can we get right? Free speech is obviously going to be a massive issue this week. The case of Graham Linehan is very firmly on the president's agenda. He referenced it publicly the other day. He said he was shocked and surprised to how far Britain's clamping down on free speech, not least because Graham Linehan sent that tweet from America. He's an Irish citizen. I mean, that could happen to any American now. So I think there is real concerns. There's a lot of pitfalls where this visit could blow up. Trump, not just on Epstein. I suspect there'll be a lot of questions about that at the press conference, thanks to Peter Mandelson's woes. Last person that wants to talk about Epstein is Donald Trump. He's obviously got his own issues in that area. And then you've got a lot of other things. You've got the situation in Poland with the drones. You've got Ukraine, the stalemate there. Putin's thumbing his nose at any efforts to get peace. And then Donald Trump's currently locked in a very vicious battle with India, where he's just whacked 50% tariffs on him. He's saying that India are keeping the Putin war machine alive. Guess where Keir Starmer's going next week?
India.
Yeah. It's like he's trying to wind him up.
He can't win for losing, can he, though?
Well, that's the problem. Once you get into a bit of a death spiral in your leadership, you become... Keir Starmer was a lucky general on the way up. He was lucky with his opponents. Everything seemed to go right for him during the general election campaign. Everything since then seems to have gone wrong, and that can only be on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Tonight, 10 o'clock, Harry Cole saves the West. I mean, you could be some time saving the West. So
well, that's why we need a
long-running show.
That's why we need a couple of seasons, I think.
Absolutely right. Good to see you.
Thanks,
we miss you, but nice to see you back. It's 9:36 as a talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham. This, of course, is the home of common sense. We're here till 10 o'clock, and it's time for Julie Hartley-Brewer, who's back right now, taking you through from 10 till 1. Let's get a quick voice note from Ian on Starmer.
Hi, Mike. It's Ian from East Grinstead. Listening to Kate Hoey talking about Starmer, it's not just the fact that he's incompetent, it's the fact that he also tries to distort so much. So people in the country, for example, the march on Saturday, you know, he's claiming to Tommy Robinson, you're not going to get hold of the flag as though the flag belongs to him. People have just had enough of it. They've had enough of this labelling of, I would say, the majority of the country as far-right thugs, because even the left wall people are fed up with the way that legal/illegal migration's being dealt with. So he needs to stop just lying, basically, and tarnishing everyone with a brush about far-right stuff.
He does need to stop doing that, but, you know, will he stop? Who knows? Mike in Lincoln says, do you remember when Keir Starmer told us the grown-ups are back in the room when Labour won the election? That being the case, how come we've been playing hide-and-seek with him ever since? And one here from Polly who says, I wonder how the one-in, one-out will progress as there is a French air traffic control strike coming up later this week. Well, I mean, they don't go for long, do they, the French, without going on strike. Let's talk to Ivan Sampson, immigration lawyer. I'm sure he's got a view on all of this. Ivan, very good morning to you.
Good morning there.
Good to see you. This one-in, one-out scheme is a load of old cobblers, really, isn't it? But what do you make of how it's going to work and what you're hearing about whether there's going to be big challenges to moving people out of the country?
Well, I think the one-in, one-out asylum swap is legally frail and practically incoherent because... Yeah, well, it is, and I'll explain.
I mean, listen, I don't disagree with you. I'm rather pleased to hear that.
I mean, it conflicts with international refugee protection standards, and it exposes us to inevitable human rights litigation. In fact, you remember it mirrors the fatal flaws of the Rwanda plan. Courts will certainly intervene to halt removals, and that's going to leave the government with expensive legal defeats and a worsening asylum crisis. Moreover, there's no legal mechanism for compelling France to guarantee the fair treatment of individuals returned by the UK. You remember the Rwanda plan, the Supreme Court said exactly that. And that was in 2023, where the Supreme Court says the UK can't outsource its refugee protection obligations under the convention without cast iron legal safeguards. Yeah. It's a problem.
The problem, of course, as well, Ivan, is that we have no detail, really, of any kind about this scheme. You know, we had Yvette Cooper, when she was Home Secretary, telling us that they had detained some people back in the sort of middle first week of August, right? But they didn't say how many people they detained. They didn't say where they were detaining them. They didn't say, you know, on what grounds they were detaining them, because they clearly didn't detain everyone. They only detained a few. And then they didn't really explain if they are going to send these people back, however many there are, who's going to qualify to come in their place? It's not clear how any of it works.
Yeah, we don't know what the mechanism is. I mean, the courts have consistently struck down collective policies. And what the courts don't like is for the government not to consider individual cases.
Yeah.
And that's always been legally flawed. I mean, you can't just have a collective policy because everyone's case is slightly different.
Of course.
And so I think there's going to be a problem. They need to relook at this. And we need to know what the mechanism is for France considering the asylum claims of people we send back. We can't just, I mean, legally speaking, Mike, okay, we can't simply send people to France and say, not our problem anymore, your problem. The law doesn't allow you to do that. I've always said that we need to rip up the Refugee Convention. We need to relook at it because it doesn't fulfill the reasons why we got into it in the first place in 1951, right, was to protect political refugees. We had probably about 2 in 51 applications, and it's been expanded to include anyone fleeing any sort of persecution. Right. It wasn't the purpose.
It's not fit for purpose, is it? Simple as that.
No, it's not. We need to relook at it. We need to rip that up and start from scratch, have our own Act of Parliament which deals with the problems with the current convention.
Well, according to the Labour government, they say they've got a deal with France for them to take back these people, and they've got a deal with France for them to supply us with other people to take their places in whichever hotel they're going to be put in.
Well, look, we've got 100,000 backlog already of asylum applications. And, you know, please forgive me, but my mathematics tells me, I'm not great at math, I was more an arts guy, but if you bring one in and one out, it doesn't reduce the numbers.
No.
The numbers remain exactly the same. And in fact, if we had exactly...
No, you see, you're right, you're not good at maths because the numbers don't stay the same, the numbers go up by 1.
Well, as I said, even if we removed every single person, so for every one that came across, we were going to put one back, we're still in the same position. So at the moment, we're actually bringing 16 in and 1 out.
Yeah.
So,
except the 1 out isn't going out because there's another one coming in for the 1 going out, so it's actually 16 plus another 1 is 17.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can show you my workings if you like. You know how they used to say, please show your workings. I feel like I should tell them. You know, but also this is typical of Labour government. They call it 1 in, 1 out, so they think if everybody calls it that, that's what they'll think it is. That's not what it is.
We just need sensible policies that will work.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to work is having our own people on the French side, stopping these people from getting on the boats.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we need to have a safe legal route for genuine asylum seekers. Look, Mike, I know you're a fair person. You've got a warm heart for genuine asylum seekers. We need to take our fair share. What that is, that's a political debate that needs to be.
Well, see, that's also, it's an emotive phrase, isn't it? Our fair share, because I would say that there are a number of ways of working out what the fair share is, and one of the things used to calculate that should be the density and the population of all European countries, and quite frankly, ours is pretty much full up.
No, I agree. I don't think we're not as big as France and Germany, who take on about 100,000 a year. But there is a number. That's a political debate. That needs to be debated in Parliament. I think, you know, people will have their views about it. People like Migration Watch and journalists like yourself.
Yeah, and people like all the people that marched around in London on Saturday, most of whom are decent members of society who just want to make sure that their country is not changing before their very eyes, because everybody doesn't mind a bit of immigration, but the way that it's been run for the last several years, probably the last couple of decades, has been ridiculous.
Look, I've always said, don't blame these people coming across on the boat.
I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying that we've got a situation which is not sustainable.
Absolutely, and I agree. And for once, we're protesting at the right place, not outside asylum hotels. You're protesting outside Parliament, because that's the people that are responsible for the mess that we're in.
Yes. But to be fair to the people protesting outside migrant hotels, if you're living in an area where people are getting sexually assaulted by the people in those hotels, you might want to ask them to be moved.
Well, I think that's, again, a decision for Parliament and for the government. And the sensible thing to do is move them onto MOD.
Yeah, well, they should never have put them there in the first place, should they?
Indeed. That policy by the Tories was just it's a knee-jerk reaction, because they didn't have anywhere them to go. And there was also litigation on the MOD sites as well.
A lot of it happened during COVID as well, when they didn't know what else to do with them. But again, because of the sheer numbers, it's all become overwhelmed. The whole system is just out of control.
I mean, it's just common sense not to put an asylum seeker in a 5-star hotel. It's just common sense. The cost of it is horrendous.
I know.
So I think the government really was a knee-jerk reaction. They had no other choice. But it's not proper, sustainable planning, proper systems in place and accommodation to deal with the numbers, which they well knew the numbers.
Yeah.
The government knew the numbers that were coming, and yet they did not make plans. There was no sustainable plan that they had to house these people.
No, and that is the problem. Listen, Ivan, thank you very much indeed. Good to talk to you. I'll see you again soon. Let's have a look at what Baroness Smith had to say this morning. She's the Women and Equalities Minister. Here she is trying to explain how it's going to work.
How many will leave this week?
We're not going to be talking about specific numbers or specific timing.
You will if it suits you, though, won't you?
This is the start of the this particular bit of action.
So if you, hang on, if you won't talk about numbers, how can anyone know if it's working?
Well, people can already see that the approach that this government is taking is meaning
No. But
that
if you're publishing, the Home Office is publishing how many people are coming in. Why won't you tell us how many people are leaving?
Well, because that's one specific route which it's important to get up and running in order to make sure that it works.
So you will tell us in due course how many?
I'm sure at some point in the future it will be possible to see the impact that this is having on the overall numbers of people who are coming here and the increased numbers of people who have already been returned because they don't have a right to be in this country.
We look forward to hearing if it's working or not.
Yeah, I don't think you'll have to wait long to find out that it's not. It's 9:49.
He has said and done things that have broken the law. And I do believe in forgiveness and repentance. He's done his time. That means that he gets at least legally a clean slate. And I think that means that particularly where he's demonstrated contrition, and he's admitted to all his many faults. It doesn't mean that we can simply throw the baby out with the bathwater with this guy, because he's always acting from a place of emotional integrity.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. It's coming up to just about 7 minutes to 10. Nigel Farage to make a major announcement at 11 a.m, says Barry. Do you think Starmer is defecting to reform to save himself? I don't think they'd have him, to be honest. Let's get a quick voice note from Dale.
Hi, Mike. Dale from Cambridge. Interesting statistic for you. The Unite the Kingdom March on the Saturday obviously reportedly had 25 arrests. The Notting Hill Carnival this year, 528 arrests. And the Palestine action on the 6th of September, 857 arrests. I think 25 arrests out of the so-called 150,000 people march is a pretty good number considering.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. But, you know, it's funny how these numbers get twisted around, isn't it? Let's talk now, though, to Sir Simon Mail, retired British Army officer, Middle East advisor as well at the Ministry of Defence, because, of course, it is September the 15th, and there are people who think that the Battle of Britain, which needs to be highlighted and needs to be taught in schools, should be actually taught in schools. Robert Jenrick's one of them. He says basically lots and lots of children don't even know anything about the Battle of Britain because it simply isn't taught enough in our education system. So, Simon, very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. Very nice to see you again.
Good to see you, yeah. I mean, I suppose I shouldn't be shocked, but I'm quite surprised that so many kids don't know about the Battle of Britain, because it was certainly something I just kind of grew up with knowing about, because my dad was in the RAF. He wasn't in the Battle of Britain, as it turns out, but it was just something that got spoken about.
Yeah, well, like so many great events, anniversaries in British history, so many of them been erased, either deliberately or by neglect, some for perhaps misguided reasons, others as a deliberate end. That's my, I thought I'd just bring that along, Mike. That's my father's Royal Air Force.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. 37
years. He grew up during the Blitz in London. He was every night when he wasn't in an Anderson shelter, he had a sofa turned over him. And like every young man, and I suspect woman of his generation, he was out there in this time of year, whenever in 1940, looking up and seeing the contrails of the Royal Air Force fighting the Luftwaffe.
Right.
Average age, 20.
I know. That's the shocking part, isn't it? I mean, I've got children who would have been in the Battle of Britain, and it kind of makes you shiver, really. I mean, looking at some of the pictures in the piece of The Sun, they're so young looking, aren't they?
I know. Oh, and let's not, let's put it in context, Mike. We'd just, basically, the Battle of France had been lost. The German blitzkrieg was rampant everywhere in Europe. Russia was on the side of the Germans. America wasn't in the war.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, as they say, the Royal Navy was stopping the Nazis crossing the Channel. But if the Battle of Britain had gone the other way, if the Royal Air Force had been defeated, we would be in a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
And it is remarkable that we have allowed that memory to drift away. It's part of the great unifying national story.
Yeah.
It's not taught either deliberately or by neglect, and it's an absolute scandal. And when I look at, I'm afraid, Gen Z, statistics that 70% have got some sort of mental anxiety. You look at these young men who went up every day, day after day, to hold the line. You've just got to say, you don't know how lucky you are to be able to lie under a duvet claiming you've got anxiety problems, because other young men not that far distant from you generationally, just stood in the line,
yeah,
and took the flak and took the fight to the enemy.
And so many of them didn't really have much experience of flying as well, did they?
Oh God, most of them had 2 weeks training, right. Mike. You just had to get them in the air. You took them up. You need a natural ability to fly.
Yeah.
I was going to follow my father into the Air Force, but I couldn't, frankly, pat my head and rub my stomach effectively enough. And so he said, "What about the army, mate?" And I said, "Yeah, you're probably right."
Yeah, I know.
You either fly or you can't. And flying's one thing. Flying in combat is something totally different.
Yeah.
Those youngsters, you imagine what they were like, but they were absolutely committed to defending their nation.
Yeah.
They knew what was at stake.
Exactly. Incredible. Great to see you. Thank you very much to Simon Mail there, retired British Army officer, Middle East advisor at the Ministry of Defence as well. I mean, why can't we teach kids about the Battle of Britain? Surely it's something they should know about. Anyway, it's been quite an interesting show, and it's only Monday. Julie Hartley-Brew's back.
Good morning. Well, not quite an interesting show. It's been a very interesting show, as always.
Well, I'm trying to not overplay it too much. I leave a little room for manoeuvre. How are you?
I'm very well. I've been in Israel for the past week. Yeah. Not a holiday.
No.
I've got to be honest, not a holiday.
No.
But I've got lots to talk about that. But again, in relation to our country, and even down to people not knowing about the Battle of Britain and the Tommy Robinson March, and people with the flag. Oh, how disgusting. And it relates to every aspect, and our morality. Lord Mandelson's being forced. What is it? 10th time? Oh, just being forced to resign. Even the people on the left celebrating Charlie Kirk's money.
Yeah.
It had that visit had so much to teach me about where we are and where we're going wrong.
Yeah, incredible. And also the idea that somehow the Prime Minister doesn't either get told something or gets told something and pretends he doesn't know it. It's kind of, what are you doing?
They haven't got a clue what they're
are you
doing. And also, how many chiefs of staff are you going to blame for your wrongdoing?
Yeah.
He doesn't. I always say he's an empty vessel.
He doesn't get it,
doesn't have anything, doesn't believe in anything,
No.
doesn't want to do anything.
I imagined this morning that, he's kind of hiding under the stairs in Down Street because he doesn't have anybody that's his friend anymore. He's got nobody to talk to.
No, we're blaming people.
Yeah.
It's like, you're the Prime Minister.
Yeah, sort it.
You kind of wanted the job. Maybe do the job.